And welcome to a brand new life, to a brand new day, all the way from the wastelands of California. My name is Michael, and I am the creator of all that you hear. I look forward to once again serve you those sounds of salvation. First time listeners, turn on, tune in, and drop out. This is a very different kind of show, a place where we don't feel so alone. Let us chase away the light no matter what you at home choose to believe. I do admire you for your curiosity. Live and direct, and streaming to you live on YouTube and later on the Fringe. Hello to you from the future. You can find the podcast version of this program on all popular platforms. And tonight, we do have a bit of a full house. Not with Uncle Jesse. First up is Marshall Masters. Marshall is a former CNN Science Features news producer, freelance writer, television analyst, and the publisher of YowUSA.com. He has been researching Earth changes and Nibiru flyby related topics. He's appeared here before, boys and girls, and we welcome him back into the circle. I almost used a bad word there. Thank God I didn't. And of course, after the break, Mimi Johnson makes her appearance here tonight. Her debut, rather. She describes herself as an accidental entrepreneur. She is the inventor and owner and founder of Canna. Of course, the phone lines are open. That number is 760-332-8724. One more time, 760-332-8724. And don't be afraid to call in. What a week it's been. Horns are growing out of skulls, thanks to cell phones apparently. And top US politicians have been given a secret briefing about UFOs. There's a lot of things to cover here tonight, but let's get down to brass tacks and bring in our boy, Mr. Marshall Masters. Let's do that now. Marshall, are you alive and well?
I am alive and well, Michael. Good to be back.
Incredible. Thank you so much for being here, Marshall. It's always an honor and pleasure to have you here.
It's always a pleasure to be here. You're a cool dude, man.
Thank you so much.
Or we used to say in my generation, you're a righteous dude.
Thank you. I do appreciate that, Marshall, and I feel the exact same way about you. Welcome back to the program here. And my God, Marshall, we are at the halfway point of 2019, it seems. And I can't believe how fast this year has come and gone.
Yeah, it's flying. And right now, we're in the middle of a danger zone. And this is something that I'm concerned about for the rest of the year. It deals with the beta Taurids, but as in talking with my research team, we're starting to think about the Perseids as well. And I think there's a very, very strong story here that is total Planet X affecting us right now. For years, every time I've been on the show before, and you said, well, is Planet X directly affecting us? And I said, well, it's indirectly because it's interacting with the sun, and the sun is becoming brighter, and so we have increased luminance, and that is causing problems. That's the reason why they're doing the chemtrail spraying, and that's what now we have a situation where Planet X has reached out and left a mark.
We're seeing the signs, like you say, Marshall.
We are seeing the signs, and and I love that you did, because that's my signs article, and we published Signs 36, Weather Could Torpedo Trump in 2020, and we published that on June 7th, because we're sitting there looking at the stats. And the stats for monthly total fireballs. Michael, we track two data sets that are empirical. In other words, this is science. This is not tin
Right.
foil hat stuff. All right. We're getting it from real crazy, wild, insane conspiracy theorists like USGS and NASA and other people. All right. And we're drawing this information and doing our analysis of it. And we're tracking earthquakes of all magnitudes. That gets us out of when was the last time you heard a big quake that they didn't downsize it, right?
Right.
It comes out and they said it was a 7.1 and they say it's a 6.9 or it's a 6.1 and it's a 5.8.
It always
and
changes. They always change it.
Yeah, because that's how they keep up the narrative that there's not an increase in larger quakes. So they're saying, well, the only ones we worry about is magnitude 5 and above. Well, if they're pushing everything down, they're jiggering the numbers. So what we do is we just say, okay, we're not going to classify. I don't care if it's an 8 or a 1, it counts. We just look at the total volume of earthquake activity, which, given the swarms that are happening in Los Angeles, oh man, this month is just going to fly off the map. And the thing was, what really got us was the fireballs. Now, fireballs and earthquakes of all magnitudes, we've been tracking, and I can tell you that up until December 21, 2012, Mayan calendar, everybody says it's bull. Well, if they're telling you it's bull, they're the ones with the bull, because right after December 21, 2012, earthquakes of all magnitudes and fireballs have gone ballistic.
Yes, and Marshall, by the way, I do have that chart up on the chat room for those that are watching on YouTube, the AMS monthly total fireballs.
Awesome.
It's
awesome. There. Now look at that. It's in orange for 2019. Now, what I want you to understand is up until December 21, 2012, all of those numbers would have been well under 150 or 100. Okay? That's how much. We have an order of magnitude. It's 10 times greater since the Mayan calendar. And that's consistent with the harbinger. Harbinger is something that says, hey, you don't blow up today, but when you see this, you know a blow up is coming. Well, we saw the celestial alignment. December 21, 2012 happened. Hollywood made a lot of fortune off it. Everybody thought it was nonsense. And while everyone goes off going, romp, 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 what happens? The Mayans are right. It was a harbinger. And the harbinger says, hey, guess what, kiddos? Hell is coming to pay a visit. Clean the guest room. That's going to be a long stay. All right. And so you're looking at this AMS monthly total fireballs. Look at those orange numbers. 5 months in a row. Every one of those orange bars for January, February, March, April, May is an all-time record for that month for fireballs in all of recorded history, Michael.
My goodness. And Marshall, anytime I see this chart here, I can't help but think of the 1998 film Armageddon.
Oh, yeah. Armageddon. And that was with Bruce Willis. Oh, that was absolutely a lot of fun. Especially the coyote thrust maneuver. And, but I think, you had Deep Impact and Armageddon. Armageddon was the fun one.
Love those movies, by the way. It's a guilty pleasure. Anytime it's on, I must see it.
Oh, yeah. It's a classic. And, Deep Impact scientifically and in everything else, it was more on spot. Whereas the other, Armageddon was good old swashbuckling fun. But both of them are fabulous movies, and they're enduring. I mean, the 90s was a good time for... have you ever noticed after 9/11 how Hollywood just went into the gutter?
It really did, and that's one of the things that we talk all the time here on the program with various guests. All the time we mention how Hollywood now has completely ran out of ideas. It's just a rehash of what is, I guess you could say, a working formula nowadays, and for Hollywood. But with so many great minds, you would suspect and expect some proper originality, but that is completely void in Hollywood these days, Marshall.
I, I think it's also a social shift, and where Hollywood became a lot darker. You don't have people in Hollywood that could produce a film like Casablanca or, It's a Good Life, where we're really, taking a very beautiful and artistic look at something very difficult people are dealing with. Hollywood had that ability. And now it's with major corporations and bean counters and lawyers, that creative aspect is gone. So it's like, it just shows sex. What do you want? Bombs and boobs. That's all. Bombs and boobs.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, that's what gets people into the theater.
That's true.
So,
yeah.
I mean, let's take it down to the common denominator. Let's go to the low end of the gene pool there. Hey, what do you think, Michael?
Well, I mean, that's Hollywood, and that's where it is. It's in the gutter.
Yeah, totally in the gutter. Not only is Hollywood in the gutter, I'm looking at the media. I want to say is in the 80s, I was a CNN science feature producer. It's in my bio. Now I cringe when people read that.
I know. I noticed, Marshall, when you do an interview, I'm not sure if you specifically told the person interviewing you not to include that part, but I always think I should include it because it does drum up some heat in regards to you, Marshall. And sometimes you just have to embrace that sort of negativity as best as you can. It's good for getting stronger, for those comments that tear you apart, not just you, but me as well. Anyone in that regards that puts themselves out there, you should always embrace the negative trolls, as they say.
Embrace. Well, you know what Nietzsche said? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But right. Nietzsche also said God is dead, and God said Nietzsche is dead.
Well, that's the conundrum, yeah.
It's a conundrum, and it's so. I am hoping that what we see coming up is that social media becomes regulated like utilities.
The arbiter of truth, yeah.
The souls, because they have, when I was working at CNN in the 80s, that was when Ted Turner was running it. I'm going to tell you, Michael, that man was awesome. Okay, he was a force of nature. The first 5 years of CNN, they were running red in the ink and living on borrowed money. And that's pretty much standard for if you're going to start a network. You're just going to run at a loss for 5 years. And so it was heavy competition. Back then, this was before concentration happened. And back then, CNN had to compete with like 50 other major media outlets that were doing phenomenal stuff. Real investigative journalism. When I was with them, I was doing, guess what? Real investigative journalism. If I had done a fraction, tried even one of the stunts I see them doing today, oh man, Turner would have had a guy like me kicking rocks down the road so fast to make your head spin. Okay, there was just, didn't do it. Back then, CNN, working with those folks, and if you want to think about Maria Bartiromo at Fox is pretty much the kind of old school gum soul kind of character that I worked with at CNN in those years. And what I can say is that I loved it because they were dedicated professionals. Journalism excellence was something you didn't attribute to yourself. It was something you just did every day. And they were hardworking, ethical, and they, by golly, wanted to get the story right. And of course, because we're media, you had round heels, okay? Well, today, all that's left at CNN pretty much are just the heels. It's really sickening. I turn on that network and I look at it, and it's just like watching Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You know how they just kind of stumble along and point and go, you know.
That's kind of how I view all news sources, however.
Yeah.
I kind of see them all that way. By the way, speaking of Ted Turner, has he ever had any allegations brought forth I don't even remember anyone saying anything negative about Ted Turner, unlike Roger Ailes, who's had all these sort of allegations thrown his way.
No, I never, Ted didn't get that. I think the only thing Ted ever did that he probably really regretted was Jane Fonda.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
when Hanoi Jane took over at CNN, that was it. They left professional ethics at the,
At the door.
at the doorstep. That
Yeah.
was it. It was all about political agenda. But what really turned CNN, MSNBC, all these people into propaganda mills? I mean, when Pravda, which was a total propaganda arm of the Soviet Union during the Cold War, did a better job probably of reporting news than our news is doing today. And the professional journalism, excellence in journalism, gone. I mean, it's a narrative. They're taking sides. It's going to hurt a lot of them. It's going to take a lot of them down because.
How do you feel about RT, by the way? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
Russia Today is, well, I think Russia Today overall is going to give. I'd much rather watch RT than MSNBC any day.
Well, sure.
I think that overall, if you hold it in balance, who's got the key to the kingdom. All right. So there's always that shift in terms of what you're getting, but at least with RT, you get a lot of information you're not going to get elsewhere, and you can pretty much tell the difference when it's useful propaganda or unuseful propaganda. See, now this is interesting. I talked about this in my book, Radio Free Earth.
Right.
All right. And because I want people to understand how to use two-way radios, because when everything goes sideways, guess what? The worst people are going to have the best two-way radios, and if all you got are red bandanas and signal flares, you are in deep kimchi, Bubba. You are in deep kimchi. All right, so you need to learn, and it's all different kinds of radios, and that's what I do in Radio Free Earth. And people are going, well, I'm just going to sit here and watch fear porn and clickbait and think I'm doing something constructive. No, you're mentally masturbating. Don't kid yourself. Go learn how to do something useful. Learn how to use two-way radios. Take a red class course on emergency first aid. Go use your time constructively instead of watching fear porn and mentally masturbating and thinking you're doing something constructive. That's
Yes.
the worst of it.
No doubt.
No doubt. Oh, it's the media is when I look at it today as compared to what it used to be years past, it really saddens me. I saw what happened, what destroyed the media, which was, and actually, this one is on the doorstep of the GOP.
Yeah.
Because this started with Republican presidents.
You also, you mentioned earlier 9/11. You said after that point, movies were not so good. I feel the same way about media sources after 9/11 not being so good either.
Yeah, it all went deep state.
True.
9/11 was when the deep state, and if you don't think 9/11 was a false flag, you're drinking the Kool-Aid. That's just my opinion. All right. Because I remember on 9/11, I'm sitting there watching television. And this is before they started going back, and they sponge all the video. Oh, do they sponge the video? And I'm watching a live broadcast. This is when they first got some cameras and people into the sites where the towers had fallen into their basements. I mean, first off, what's wrong with that picture? You have two buildings like that literally fall straight down into their basements. And then you have a third one that falls into its basements because office furniture catches fire. I mean, you got structural engineers going, this is insane. Who could invent such craziness? But that's what they did. And the thing about it was after that, that was when the deep state really took over. And I will have to say that it was back for me in about 2005 that I finally started figuring out Agenda 21 and what the elites, the globalists want to do, which is reduce human population by 90%.
Yes, this is something I did want to mention, but before we get into the whole conspiracy angle here, well, not much of a conspiracy these days. I did want to mention Planet X since we are near Zachariah Sitchin's birthday. It's July 11th, so we're getting pretty close here.
Well, we are. You know, it was. I'll share this because it was interesting. It was the first time that it ever happened to me. I was doing another show, and the host said, "Here, I just got a submission. Look at this. I'm on the air." And he sends me the link through Zoom. And he goes, "Take a look at it, and you tell me." It's the first time I ever did a live image analysis.
Right.
Son of a gun. It just came up, blip, no question. Whoever sent it to him nailed it. It was a bona fide observation. And it was big. And it was in an area where it tends to be. We see on Planet X images, I'm seeing Planet X is going to be, say, between the 3 and 4 o'clock at a distance, or it'll be between 11 to 12:30, or it'll be off to somewhere between the 9 and 8:30. And so, and that'll depend on, it'll be above the sun in the afternoon. It'll be down and to the right or down and to the left in the morning when they're catching it as a rule. But when people are observing this stuff, they're going to be at any latitude, any altitude. The ones that I like the best, obviously, are at altitude observations from airplanes. Airplane windows are made out of plexiglass, not glass, and plexiglass is very, very optically, it's far superior to glass. And so if the person is, if they're holding their smartphone right up against the window, that can cause distortion. If they're holding it back a little bit, and we can tell that. Those have always been the best ones, but it's, I've been tracking this thing since 2013. We picked it up from a webcam in Turrialba, Costa Rica, on the volcano there. We were so accurate on our reporting. And I mean, back then it was just the itchy bitchy little blue thing. And I used to call it blue bonnet because it reminded me of blue bonnet flowers I loved so much when I lived in Texas. And
wait, you're not from Texas, by the way.
Oh, no, I lived in Texas for 10 years.
But you
5 years.
Oh, wow. Basically, you are from Texas then.
Pardon?
I said, technically, you can say you're from Texas. You've been there for 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Technically, I can say that.
You can say that.
And, I love Texas. Texas is, it's a great state, great people, great attitude. I wound up coming back to the West Coast because I'm in the computer business, and I followed my fortune to Silicon Valley. But I sure do miss Texas, and wonderful. I just like the attitude, the can-do attitude of the state, and wonderful place. California this is where you come to get legislated and pay taxes.
Now be careful now. I'm from California.
Oh,
I'm joking.
Native-born son.
No, it's pretty terrible out here. Some things I like, other things I can do without.
Amen to that.
Oh, yeah.
California really reminds me, well, years ago when I was doing all my business I had a tour business going to Russia. That's where I got started with all this, flying over the pole and seeing the North Pole deteriorating. And
wild stuff.
There was a great expression in Russia. What do you have when you have one door and one Russian, a bureaucracy.
I was gonna say something with vodka, right?
Oh, well, everything's with vodka there, my
Yeah,
friend.
by
And,
default. Yeah.
and if you think they drink the Stoli we get here,
I need to go to Russia sometime.
oh yeah, oh my God. They sit there and they drink water glasses of it. All right.
Wow.
But when you drink that vodka, it's so smooth and easy. You could drink a water glass of it.
Yeah, I need some of that, no
Not
doubt.
here. You just feel like you cauterize your tongue or something. But wow. But Russia was where I got my start. I was flying Aeroflot airliners, Ilyushin 62, then Ilyushin 86, and I loved the 62 better than any other airplane I've ever flown on. And it was going over was always at night, but coming back was day. And we went directly over the pole from Moscow, Sheremetyevo, to San Francisco. And the first time I did it, and I'll never forget, it was like January 2003. And January 1993. And I am looking out the window. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. Actually, I'm
Phoenix.
from Arizona as well.
Okay.
But in Arizona, blue ice, which is very old ice. The only time you saw blue ice when I was a kid was you went to 7-Eleven, you put some ice in a cup and you put some blue syrup on it and you paid for it.
Right.
How do you do blue ice? All right. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at fields of blue ice it was just beautiful, breathtaking, from curve to curve. And for those of you who are flat earthers, if you can prove to me that Ilyushin was building flattening windows into their Ilyushin 62 during the height of the Cold War, please send the information on to my site.
Yeah,
I'd appreciate
the
it.
flat earthers will not like you now.
Oh, that's right. And so the thing, though, was looking out and I saw it. And I was doing business. So I was always going over in December and coming back in January. And year after year, all right, my last trip was in late 2008 to Russia, or 1998, excuse me. And every winter, I just saw the pole steadily deteriorating. And finally, the last time I saw it, instead of this beautiful white, pristine field of snow and ice, it looked like a busted windshield of a car in a wrecking yard. And it was really sad. That is what really started me on all of this stuff, Michael. I'm trying to figure out what it is, and I'm not going to believe the spin meisters. I'm going to believe my lying eyes because I'm seeing it at altitude. And so that was when we were going, hey, everything with that atmosphere is being perturbed in our solar system, not just Earth, which means it's solar driven. And then the question is the sun responding to an interloper, or is this a natural cycle of the sun? Well, we're in this new solar minimum. So obviously, with the increased luminance, it's got to be interacting with an object, which would be its smaller companion star, Nemesis, brown dwarf,
Right.
a few times the size of Jupiter. Now, that brings me to what we're seeing today in the current articles and the alert that I'm putting up.
Yes, let's get right down to that. And for those that don't know, there's been all sorts of things going on with our planet, and outside of the planet, new planets being discovered, more Earth-like planets being discovered. You also have asteroids coming very close to the Earth, and it has lots of scientists and other individuals, independent researchers. It has them very uneasy. Do you think an asteroid will cause any potential catastrophic collision with Earth, Marshall?
That is exactly what we're worried about right now. And we're in a narrow window of danger. let me run it down
Go
because
ahead.
this is and there's something specifically you can do about it. And make sure we talk about Bert before we end the show. We got to talk about Bert.
No problem.
But what happened was we put up our signs article 36, and that's when we already covered that slide. We're breaking the records and we're going, oh man, I mean, what's going to happen when the other shoe falls? All right, that's what we're really thinking. It's like 5 months in a row. This is not good. All right, and so I mean, this news is about as welcome as a bowl of itching powder at a hemorrhoid clinic.
I agree.
Yeah,
That
it's
was
just
quite
terrible.
that was quite the visual there, by the way.
Yeah, I cooked that one up. Nobody's ever said anything about it one way or the other than it's pretty original.
That was pretty good.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So, Marshall, we are also talking about this beta torrid meteor shower, and many believe it caused the 1908 Tunguska explosion. Is that what you believe?
Actually, I do believe that there is. We call it the Tunguska event. In Russia, they call it Tunguska meteorid.
Tunguska.
Tunguska meteorid.
And it says this is a beta torrid. And Marshall, are you a beta male? or are you an alpha male? I'm just curious.
Beta or alpha?
Yes.
Gosh, I didn't even. What's the difference between alpha and beta?
Well, a beta is a man who has like sort of like a spirit of a woman, and a alpha is more masculine, more dominating. Are you a beta male or an alpha?
I'd say, yeah, probably more to the beta male.
You're a beta male. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I would say if you had on that basis, I'd have to say more.
Wow.
Because I like the way women think.
Oh no, Marshall.
No, women are really cool problem solvers because everything's everything and everything's connected. And I had the greatest when I'm, working out problems. It's just like guys are kind of focused. We're in the compartment. We're in the compartment. The train is on the track. You talk to a woman, everything is everything. And it's like wonderful conversation. So, okay,
Wow.
I'll be a B.
That's amazing. But I do appreciate you answering that question for me. I sort of lean more towards being an alpha. And I suspected you to be an alpha too, Marshall. So now this threw me back just a tiny bit.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm a guy and I believe in, all right, you could say I'm an alpha in the sense. Remember the Gillette ad that had all the guys in front of the Weber grills?
Oh, yes.
I saw that. I took every Gillette product I had in the house, threw it in the garbage. I'll never buy Gillette again.
Wow.
So does that make me alpha too?
I mean, it sort of goes against Gillette, but then again, I don't even use any products from Gillette to begin with.
Yeah, well, I won't. I was always Gillette all my life. Always shaved with Gillette.
Wow.
Okay. And not anymore. Not if I have to choose between my Weber grill and a Gillette, to hell with Gillette. I'll keep the Weber.
Well, I'm not going to go against that.
I'll go find another blade.
I hear you. Well, amazing. This was great. I'm glad I asked that question. But yeah, we are faced with all sorts of threats currently right now on the ground and in the sky. And many scientists are definitely concerned that we could be facing a potential meteor shower that will strike us. And I believe sometime in September, correct?
Well, that's what we're talking about is not even September. We're talking about the beta torids right now. And we started talking, you introduced Tunguska.
Tunguska, right.
Right, that was June 30th, 1908.
Right.
All right, now, if you go on our site and start with signs 37, beta torids, stowaway alert. And what happened was we were starting to see some stuff that was shaping up a few days after we published Signs 36, where we were showing the high amount of stuff. And then one morning I get a call from Clyde Lewis and he goes, "What's with the stowaway stuff?" And I'm going, "Stowaway stuff?" So I dig into it, and it's Beta Taurids stowaway. Now, let me give you the lowdown on this, because this is really, really cool. Because
I'm here.
We pulled it all together. And the Beta Taurids is a so-so meteor shower. Not a biggie. But it comes through, and we pass through the swarm.
Yeah.
All right. That's the field of debris that is left over from the comet Enki. And it's on an orbit that takes it way out deep into trans-Neptunian area. So that would connect it possibly with Nemesis, in terms of Nemesis having its own debris field. And so the stowaways was a term that was put in an article, and it is what they were saying is there's noculent clouds. Now, noculent clouds, we don't see them down here in the lower 48. You'd see them up in North Alaska, because you got to be up in the Arctic Circle to see noculent clouds, which are literally, darn near, up to.
Yeah, the inoculant
they're
clouds.
The highest clouds. They're just below space.
And they're so beautiful to look at, by the way.
Oh, yeah, they're really gorgeous. And the thing is, these noculent clouds started appearing in San Francisco, Oklahoma, and in Europe. We're talking down into the 30s. They've come. They're 20 degrees south of where they should be. And the Beta Taurids and noculent clouds, there is no historical connection. Never before have noculent clouds appeared with the Beta Taurids. And so what astronomers were saying is that there were stowaways. Stowaways, in other words,
yeah.
There's something in the Beta Taurid stream that wasn't normally there before. And the reason why the noculent clouds are moving down is and they have a pretty good term for it. They call it asteroid dust. All right. But you have in the swarm, on one end, you have, dust that's as fine as talcum powder on one extreme. On the other, you have rocks that are 100 meters in size, give or take. Tunguska was one of those big ones.
Yes.
All right. And Tunguska happened on June 30th, that was when Earth was passing through the densest part of the swarm field itself.
And by the way, Marshall, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but we do have a caller.
Sure.
Yeah, let's take this call really quickly here, and we'll get back to Tunguska.
All right.
Caller, are you alive? Caller.
I am. I'm taking myself off mute. Hi.
There
how are
you go. I had no idea you were on mute. Thank you for that.
Wow. I wasn't expecting to actually get the call. Hi, Marshall. Hi.
Hey.
Michael. How are you guys doing tonight?
I can't complain.
Wow. So I have quite an amazing story. I don't even know where to start. I wasn't really expecting you to pick up, but my mom had a stroke, and I moved up here to Reno, and I discovered Marshall's work actually living in the Bay Area before I moved up here. And your work has been amazing to me, Marshall, and I just want to thank you for that. And I've been on actually Jimmy Church's radio podcast. I met Foster Gamble at a David Icke show, and your truth has resonated with me from my own experiences, and I just wanted to officially thank you for that. And I appreciate what you're doing.
I'm glad I took this call.
I don't think enough people tell you that, how much you've done for our planet, and I just wanted to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. You made my day.
Thank you, Marshall.
You made my week.
Yeah, I mean, isn't it?
You made my day taking my call. I was not even expecting. I clicked 2 days ago. I got this live thing, and I clicked on it, and I'm still learning that because I'm not on my phone all the time. Because I love how you did the other day with Rex Bear. You just had a thing where you were like looking at your phone, and I actually do that when I'm at work. I go and you did that, and I was like, oh my god, I do that at work, and I was laughing my head off because I do that all the time. But it's just unbelievable what impact you've made. And I really want to thank you.
Isn't that difficult, by the way, Marshall? Anytime someone compliments you to that sort of magnitude, it always leaves me kind of confused. Not with you, but myself personally. When there's people that say how much they like the show, I'm always thinking, oh man, I'm at a loss for words.
Okay, not me. I'll take it.
I know you'll take it.
Yeah. Well, I started this research only because, and this is my true experience, and I will share it. My father passed away in August 12th of 2008. And when you talk about a Star Trek future, I really do believe there is a promise for a Star Trek future because of the dream I had continuously. And I actually shared this on the Jimmy Church the broadcast as well. When I somehow ended up with tickets at a David Icke show, and I looked up, and the one true documentary that I saw that really brought to light a lot of information was Foster Gamble. I look up, there's Foster Gamble, and it just blew my mind. And so my research led me down a path, and of course, I go back in my archives and I go, I don't even know how I know all this stuff, but I do attribute it to the dream of when my father passed away in mine and my brother's arms. And when he died, I had a true change, and I saw what was going to happen. And I just thank you for what you're doing.
Wow.
Marshall. Thank you.
Dear, I want you to tell me about this more. I do what I do because 90% or more of the people who follow my work find me for the same reason that you did. They've had a profound spiritual experience, dream, vision, premonition. What you had was a shared death experience. And
I did.
I
really
would
did.
like for you, if you don't mind it, I know it's personal information, but if you would share it, that would be good.
I should write something about it. Yes. I should write a book. What I don't even know how to go about it.
This was saying your father was passing and you were with your father, and then that's when you had this experience.
Yes.
Okay. What I want you to do is, and I know it's painful to relive a moment like that, but take me just before and just after your experience, and then tell me what you were shown, the vision that you were given. Can you do that?
Right now?
Yeah.
It's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. No. Okay. So my brother and I were holding my father, and we were saying the Our Father. And he actually had rewritten the Our Father as a rendition, and it stuck in my mind. So when my brother and I were holding him, we knew that that's what he wanted us to say, and we were holding him. And then I remember walking out of the hospital after he passed away, and I was looking up at the sky and just feeling so unbelievably overwhelmed. And then a couple of days later, I had to go back to work. I worked at Save Mart at the time, and my father passed away in Modesto, California, and then the nurse that was there that night, I went back to work a couple of weeks later, and the nurse that was actually there helping my father walked in all the way in Pleasanton, California, and I looked up and I knew it was him because he was there, and he was the one that called us to come to the hospital. And that was so profound for me. He was there. And how could he be from Modesto a couple of weeks later showing up in Pleasanton, California? And then that was the beginning of it. And then I started having dreams. My dad took me flying I ended up, and I kept having these repetitive dreams where I was flying across the planet and seeing destruction everywhere with my dad, and I ended up on this spaceship. And this dream happened like at least 7 times, at least 6 or 7 times. I don't know how many times it was, but it was so profound to me.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You said it happened 7 times. Did the dream
I don't know exactly. At least
begin
7 times. 7
and proceed and end exactly the same each 7 or 8 times?
Yes, exactly the same.
Okay. You've had an incredibly profound experience. What happened to you is real.
Oh,
okay. And don't let somebody with dead animal skins on the wall tell you differently.
Thank you for that. Thank you, because I've been feeling so alone in this with this experience and trying to reach out, but I've had so many synchronistic events happen after that.
And what you did is you opened the gateway. You know, dear, before you incarnated, you decided all of this. Before you incarnated. And you decided it with your soul family. And now they're coming and they're helping you on cue. And they're helping you to embrace what's coming so that you can prepare for it and help others and to be in service. And so there is a real and noble reason for what you did. And first off, I want to say how wonderful was it you had such a wonderful, loving relationship with your father and your family.
Yeah, he was my best friend.
Yeah, this is an incredible blessing.
That's true.
And you've had a powerful, powerful experience. Now, and I feel a little, if it's awkward, don't. But if you could step me through that vision, what you saw after each and everything, and then when you're finished, I can share something with you so that you understand you're not alone. But walk me through your vision, because this is a profound vision. This was coming from across the veil. This wasn't something you cooked up. This is your ancestors were feeding this to you. That's the reason why it repeats perfectly.
That's so weird.
Okay. So go through, step us through exactly what you saw each and every time. Where did, beginning with when you first realize where you're at. Tell us about that moment when you first realized.
It felt like I was walking on clouds.
Okay.
The original feeling of the dream. And he grabbed my hand, because my father was a mechanical engineer, and it led me down a lot of other research as well. But what I saw when I reached out, and this is the one part that I remember the most, because a lot of it's blurry, but the one I remember the most is reaching my hand out and touching this orb, and it had like multicolors, kind of like, not like a rainbow, but I reached out and we touched it, and then we went flying, and we saw a lot of the earth dying. Like there was fires, and then when I actually went to the Rim Fire, because he worked at Yosemite, and I thought this was all coming from my consciousness, because he worked at Yosemite and he was a mechanical engineer, and all these different things started to correlate together, and I thought it was just my subconscious cooking this up, right? Like just trying to, but it seemed like he knew me enough to connect the dots in an abstract way for me to have it make sense. So what I was seeing was that we need to move forward with new energy technologies. And that's what I finally, to come up with the words, with the abstract visions I was given, was that we need to move forward in new energy technologies, because he was so much into it. He had actually written stuff down about it. And it really was so profound that this is what our planet needs right now.
By the way, caller,
This is what we
oh my
need right
goodness.
now.
Caller, what's your name? I feel bad just referring to you as caller.
I'm sorry. My name is Dana.
Dana. Okay, there we go.
Dana, and my uncle's actually worked for my uncle works. My uncle passed away. Both my uncles owned a business. My dad was the oldest of the family, and he was the carpenter and taught them a lot of stuff. But they worked for George Lucas and stuff, or the Clerks theatrical specialties. But my dad was the brains.
Oy vey. Understood.
He definitely was.
Yes, and I do. I'm not kicking you off yet, but I do want to thank you for.
And I do appreciate you for asking me.
I just wanted to say thank you so much.
I do want us to move forward as a species.
Right. I just wanted to thank you for calling in and saying what you did. I know it's a little awkward, a little difficult to pick up a phone and to tell us the things you did. So I appreciate it completely. And I know Marshall feels the exact same way.
I've gained my trust with your work. So thank you.
Go ahead, Marshall. Get in there, handle this.
Dana, dear,
yes,
what
Marshall.
happened to you is absolutely real. I don't want you to ever again for the rest of your life doubt it. I don't care who says what. You know what happened. You know what you know. Nothing is going to change this. And the other thing I want to say to you, Dana, is you may not be thinking this right now, but I've been doing this long enough to know that there's someone else out there listening to this broadcast right now, and they're crying alongside you, dear.
Thank you.
You touched them. And there's someone out there now who, thanks to you having the courage to share this personal experience, you've touched someone's life out there. More than one. I've been doing this, all right, since 1999. I know what I'm talking about.
Oh, God. No,
You've made a difference for someone out there.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless.
Oh, yes.
And may we persevere.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right,
God
Dana.
bless.
Take care.
Thank you.
Good night,
All right.
Dana.
Good night. Bye.
And there she goes, ladies and gentlemen. That was Dana with a very, very heartbreaking phone call.
Yeah.
That must have been kind of, or not kind of, it must have been very difficult for her to call in and relay that story to us all, Marshall.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, difficult. I mean, people who have these experiences, who do they turn to and talk to? They talk to friends and family, and all of a sudden they're going, that's all bull, and I don't want to hear about it. Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, you get shunned away.
It's mockery, and it's like she's been shown something, and she wants to share it out of love and service to others. These are noble virtues.
That was a very emotional call.
Yes. And
I might even cry.
Yeah.
Well, not really, but I did feel for her, though. I do feel bad that she went through this sort of experience, but it was also a very humbling experience for her, I'm sure.
Are you feeling a beta male twitch?
I was feeling a little beta right now. Just a little bit. That's a good one, Marshall.
Yeah, there we go. So she's seeing, and this is what people see, like Dana.
Dana, right.
All right. They see impact events, fires, all kinds of terrible things happening. And tsunamis, impacts. And it's always the same, it's always round up the usual suspects. Remember that, from Casablanca at the end where Rick shoots the Nazi colonel and his buddy, the police chief, says, round up all the usual suspects.
I love that scene, yeah.
Let's go join the resistance. And so it goes that way. But, it's when that's what really holds my feet to the fire to do this work is when people like Dana reach out to me and they say, thanks for helping.
Yeah, that was something else, Marshall. I'm glad you got to experience that sort of phone call, because it really does make you feel like you really impacted someone's life for the better. And I've had a few of those, except in a form of email. Some of those were really bad, even to the point of a divorce and being separated from kids. And my show and myself, I was one of the reasons that helped this individual get through all sorts of sleepless nights. I've had these sort of emails, and I'm always just puzzled. And what's the proper way to respond to someone like that?
You listen.
Yeah, that's all you can do, really.
You listen. But it sounds like a simple thing. Sounds trivial. Who the hell listens? They don't listen. Everybody else says, shut up, put a sock in it. You're crazy. You're insane. I'm going to divorce you.
Right.
And that's not a joke. That's not a joke. I've seen so many divorces as a result of it. And here's the interesting thing is 9 times out of 10, the one who files the divorce is not the one making the threats. The one who files the divorce is the one who is being just bullied and intimidated by spouse, family, whatever. And they finally get to the point where, there's no way they're going to be intimidated into silence or submission. When your mind embraces this, there's no going back. There's no going back. And so, they'll have a spouse that says, stop this or I'll divorce you. Stop this or I'll divorce you. It's always this thumb on the big red button nonsense. And finally, one day, the experiencer, the person who's having these dreams, visions, premonitions, doing the research, following this stuff, one day they finally go, I'm tired of it. I'd much rather live alone than to live with this abuse, because there's no way I can submit to what you're asking. No way. All right. And so 9 times out of 10, they're the ones that file the divorce, and the other one's going, what did you do that for? And this is what I see. This is what happens. And so, for me, that's why I want to help people.
Yeah.
And it just is, and it really makes, for me, Michael, a very satisfying life. It's a difficult life. It's a very difficult life. I'm under tremendous shadow banning suppression.
Right.
I'm economically attacked, at every opportunity. They hit me. They want to suppress the work, but I'm not the only one. So I talk to other folks that are doing this, researchers, writers, hosts. What's happening right now with the media, with social media, is it's Orwellian.
It's pretty wild.
It's like, I don't know. Are they? It's like YouTube should change its name to KGB.
Well, they totally went against their own policies, which what they stood for originally back in back in 2007, rather. The whole, their whole guidelines and the way their protocol was set up, it was completely different than what they aspire to be now. Now they are completely engulfed by the quote unquote major corporations. They are the ones that are truly in charge.
Yeah. And
repulsive, really.
Truth and reputation don't show up on the balance sheet. All right. And they want the numbers, and they'll do whatever, and they'll say whatever. There's no ethics. But the reason why is that, first off, and it's going to annoy some people out there, but the fact is, every president after Reagan and before Trump was a globalist. All right. And if you look at the deconstruction of our nation, it happened between Reagan and Trump. And we see NAFTA, China and the WTO, concentration of the media, taxes, legislation, factories moving overseas. You know, the one of the things that I make a point of in this current article I put up on Q is that the goal of the globalists is to create a world where there are no powerful nations. They want to, not only they want to take America down, they want to take Russia down as well. And they want, you know, they find that they work well with the Chinese, and that's working out for them, although I don't think the Chinese are so enamored with it. But what they want to do is they want to create a uniformly poor world where there's just a handful of lords and ladies at the top who are weighted on hand and foot, and everybody else is struggling, you know, buried in debt, eating crap food, and, you know, just trying to go. So I saw this, and that's all part of the Agenda 21. I saw it moving. Now there's a chance that we can move away from that, and that, because that's what's really important, is we have to stand up for freedom. That's what you take. I'm seeing this from a Planet X viewpoint when I'm looking at the Patriot movement. You have Brexit, Yellow Jacket, MAGA. I don't care what you say about them. The fact is, these are the people who were taking it in the shorts from the globalists. They were the ones who were watching their factories and their retirement disappear. All right. And so that's where the pushback is coming from. And they're saying, we want our countries back, but they want their freedom back as well. This is so exciting for me in terms of Planet X, because we're not going to survive the flyby unless the whole paradigm shifts. And I'm seeing that, and the paradigm's not going to shift unless people are reaching up and grabbing the handle. And I am seeing that. That is a wonderful thing. You know, I write in my book, Being in It for the Species. I go at great length about what is going to happen in the interaction between our world and Nibiru when the Anunnaki arrive. Because they're going to come for two things, gold and women. The women are for slave breeding programs, and they'll treat them like indentured servants. The gold, they don't need it. They don't use our monetary system at all. They use the gold, they grind it up into a talcum consistency, and they use it in their atmosphere to reflect sunlight and radiation, because they're in around a very, very dirty star, which is a brown dwarf. And when they're passing through the core of our system, it tears the heck up out of their atmosphere. And it's going to do the same thing to us. What Dana was seeing, what her father was showing her, absolutely right. And her father going, energy is really important. Absolutely. Dana, if you're still living, your dad is sending you the right message, dear, because it's going to take power. It's going to take technology for people to survive what's coming.
Yeah, that's true.
And it ain't going to be pretty.
We should have asked her if she is still experiencing these sort of dreams now.
Usually the pattern will run a course and then it ends. Now, I can tell you the first time I had a similar dream like this.
An apocalyptic type dream?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
This was back in the 70s. I was a young man in my late 20s. And at the time, I was working for a computer company in Houston. And I started getting this recurring dream every night. And it was absolutely IMAX clarity. IMAX clarity. I could hear, see, I could feel.
You could feel it.
I could smell, all five senses. All five senses. And so I would fall asleep, and my vision always began exact same place. I was standing on a knoll overlooking a camp, a government camp, a triage camp. A triage camp, that's where people go and you're going to die. We can cure you, or we can keep you comfortable until you die. There's your choices. And this triage camp, I remember looking, there was a big gorge in a mountain range, and people were coming up on a road through that gorge to this triage camp. And I could see down below me where they were being sorted out and processed. And then there were special bunkers for them to go to where they were giving heroin IV drips, and they could do that until they died and just let the bag go free when they're ready to let go of their lives. That was for the ones that were contagious. For the ones that weren't, they were put into a little area with a little creek that was running, and given basic comforts, and where they could stay there until they died. And then there was an area where people would go, and they would kneel down to a trench, and someone would come, a releaser was called, would come from behind and put a small caliber bullet in the back of their head, and then they would fall forward into the trench. And death is instantaneous. You put a bullet into the medulla oblongata, or the apricot, as it is called by sharpshooters or snipers. You hit that. That's it. They put a bullet through your medulla oblongata. You're dead before you even know you're dead. That's it. It's just that fast. Well, I saw all of this, and I knew that there was a big metroplex on the other side of that mountain, but I didn't know where it was. But I remembered every detail, and perfect, absolutely perfect. Now, I had this dream night after night after night. I tried to stop it. I would get up in the middle of the dream. It would resume exactly where I left off when I went back to sleep. If I got stoned or drunk or anything.
It's still there.
Still there.
Still there. Wow.
Nothing. It was so disturbing and miserable that
it's one lucid dream.
The stress of it gave me hemorrhoids. And I had to have surgery.
Oh my God, Marshall.
And that was when the dream went away. So the fact that she had hers for 7 days, I mean, for me, it was almost a month. It was horrifying. So the fact that she was only 7 times, trust me, Dana, if you're listening, your dad was thinking of you, honey. He didn't want to push you over the edge and you'd have a physical episode. So you were blessed. And that's what happens. And, the thing was, when I have these experiences, I always get confirmation after, because what happened, this was, in the late 70s in Houston. Well, fast forward to the 90s. And I'm from Houston. I'm jumping from Houston to Austin, and I went from there back to Phoenix. And Phoenix, I went to San Francisco. And San Francisco, I went down into the Santa Cruz area. And then from there, I went up to a little place called Brookdale. And I started writing my book, God's Child Covenant, in 2003. And it was a fiction title. And the first 4 chapters had white man's disease. Okay, I can't get no satisfaction. It just, I couldn't get a rhythm.
I see.
And so a friend of mine, I'm telling him about it, and he's reading my stuff, and he goes, yeah, you ain't getting it. And he says, but there's a place I go to every day after I day trade just to go read and relax. Why don't you meet me there? Called the Lexington Reservoir. I met him at the reservoir. This is just south of Los Gatos, California, on the opposite side of the Santa Cruz Mountain from the Silicon Valley. And he said, hey, why don't we go over there as a boathouse for the sculling teams for the university? They couldn't have any engines in it because it's a drinking reservoir lake. And so I went over to the boathouse, and I walked out on the hill that led down a sharp knoll to the boat docks. And when I got to the top, I was standing, mind you, this was some 20 years after. I was standing on the exact place, seeing the exact terrain before me that I had in Texas in that recurring vision. And when I sat there, and the only difference between what I saw in the vision and what I saw in front of me was, in the vision, it was all defoliated and bleak. It was dirt and dead trees and a lot of really suffering people. And I remember the people. They were all thin, emaciated, and they were covering themselves with bed sheets, and they had these big ulcers all over their body because they weren't able to wash the volcanic ash. The Hebrew term for it from Exodus is shikken, all right? And they couldn't get the ash, which is one of the plagues of Exodus. And so that was causing these terrible ulcers, which are very painful to form on their skin. And these people, their spirit was broken. They're walking like ghosts to this place, quiet. Nobody's crying, nobody's complaining. It's just, I'm going to die or they're going to save me. And when I looked at this place, and I'm standing where I'd stood 20 years ago in that recurring vision, and it was absolutely perfect in every detail, Michael.
Wow.
Perfect. And I just collapsed to the ground, and I started crying like a child.
You had a beta moment.
I had a beta moment.
That's all right, though. You had a beta twitch. It's okay.
Big beta.
Beta
Big
twitch.
Beta.
Yeah.
And so that was, and the thing was, over a course of 20 years, I never knew where this place was. I just kept moving in a direction to the west. Brookdale is 10 miles away from the Lexington Reservoir. And when I rented in Brookdale, I had no idea why. I mean, I wasn't really thinking about that, because even though I was that close to the reservoir, it was, I had moved there. And then my friend said, come and take a look. And then all of a sudden, I'm realizing I had moved within 10 miles of a place of great death and suffering that I had seen in a vision 20 years ago.
That's a wild synchronicity.
That's right. But it's not the only one. It's not the only one. And I had others. And that's what brought me to this.
That's what brought you to the dance, as they say.
Yeah. And so when people say, Marshall, thanks for the help, I appreciate it. I appreciate them. I know exactly what they're going through and they're feeling. And so when they're thanking me, it's not about me going, oh, look at me. Oh.
True.
It's, hey, I helped another one.
Yeah. No, that's what it's all about, Marshall.
It makes my day when people say, yeah, it really helped me. I don't feel so isolated and beaten down with this.
Yes, and
that's what floats my boat.
Yes, and Marshall, when I was talking about that September 9th date, I was referring to asteroid 2006 QV89.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're tracking them, usually with asteroids, and it's a thankful thing, is that the longer they track the asteroid, the more likely it is that it will be in a benign orbit. It won't be an Earth crosser and hit us. So the odds are reducing. But on the other hand, we have this Nemesis cloud with God knows what's in it, with a lot of iron oxide. That's the reason why. One of the things I point out in my signs beta 38, the beta Taurids, is that not only do we have the inoculant clouds coming down, but China is reporting, a Sprite storm that is amazing.
I saw that.
Yes. And so, the reason why I'm amazed with that is, a Sprite, for your listeners, is lightning that goes from the ground up. Lightning comes from the air down. Sprites go from the ground up. And the mother of all sprites that you don't want to be around is called a solar sprite, or cosmic lightning. And that is a lightning bolt emanating from the sun that hits a planet.
I got that photograph up now from your website for those in the chat room. And yeah, that's a pretty outrageous looking photograph there, Marshall.
It is. It is. And you know, that it just, I'm looking at that and I'll tell you what it's telling me. I'm looking from the color and everything is the Nemesis cloud. Now, our solar system, we have the Oort cloud. It's a big ball of debris that surrounds our solar system from when the sun, went first, sparked to life. All right. And Nemesis has its own version of an Oort cloud. Now, the Nemesis system, obviously, it's what we call a mini constellation. It's very small relative to us. So the Nemesis cloud is probably the size of the orbit of Jupiter. And so this is something we've been tracking in our signs articles, and that in this Nemesis cloud is going to be a huge amount of iron oxide. This is typical with brown dwarfs. And so when we're looking at inoculant clouds that are coming down 20 degrees from where they normally should be, it's because there's asteroid dust coming in from the swarm, and this weight is bringing them down. And that's literally what you're seeing is streams of debris as inoculant cloud. Now, that's pulling it down. But when we add these sprites from China, all right, now it tells me not only are we picking up all the asteroid dust from the Beta Dorid stream, that dust has a lot of iron in it.
Yeah, they're interacting.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
That is insane.
And so this really is what we're having right now. This is what I mean, there's a lot of people that'll say, well, they have a theory about this affecting the Earth from Planet X, a direct causality from Planet X. And I've never really been able to find one, that I could bite down on. All right. The rest of them were, it's kind of like lettuce. You got to eat a ton of it to get a few net calories. And on the other hand, with these inoculant clouds plus the Chinese sprites, hey, this is a whole new ball game, kiddos.
It sure is.
Now we are directly interfacing because it's coming in on the Beta Taurids. Now, and we have between now in mid-July, we're passing through the swarm, and what I believe, working with my team, JP Jones, all right, and the other folks that work with me, and they're wonderful volunteers, all, and fantastic people, and dedicated and committed. Couldn't do what I do without them. And they're looking at all this, and what we're looking forward now is, one, we really don't want another Tunguska event or even a 2013 Chelyabinsk. Because if you have something like that, an airburst detonating over a major city,
it's over.
It's over. Chelyabinsk was 30 times Hiroshima on terms of energy, and Tunguska was up between 5 to 750 times.
Armageddon was right.
Absolutely.
My goodness.
Absolutely. The premise on that was spot on. So we're looking at what's coming up next and what's going to happen with the Perseids.
Yes, and I do have the Beta Taurid stowaway alert, that image up for those in the chat room there. So they're getting a good look of that sort of route that it's taking there. And we are in the crosshairs.
We're in the crosshairs. Now, what I want everybody to do is, if you go to Signs 37, and I think I also did it in Signs 38, it's at the bottom of the article, and there is Duck and Cover 1951 Bert the Turtle. All right. Now, when I can find something that's older than me, that's a good day.
Right. We're not getting any younger, Marshall.
Pardon?
I said we're not getting any younger.
We're not. And so Bert the Turtle from 1951 This was, Cold War. And there was this, they were telling the public, yeah, you can survive a hydrogen bomb. Oh, really? So what are we doing? I mean, as a kid, we were at have duck and cover drills. And I remember, the teacher would say, duck and cover, and we'd all get under our desks and we're looking at the teacher. Teacher's just looking at his watch or her watch. Finally one day I said, how come you're not under your desk? He said, because this is pointless.
I mean, it's not so pointless now in hindsight now, right?
No, it's not. And so they produced this wonderful film called Duck and Cover with Bert the Turtle.
Bert the Turtle.
And Bert the Turtle. And it is, if you watch this film, and it's worth it. It's only 9 minutes and 14 seconds, guys. That's just, for those of you out there that are doing the clickbait and the fear porn, just kind of slip it into the slime somewhere. This is useful. And Duck and Cover is telling you how to survive a nuclear event initially. And what it's saying is, you see the bright flash, you duck and cover. You get down, there's things that you can do. You find defilé, all right? You're wanting to get earth between you or building something between you and what's coming, because first is the flash, all right? And then you're going to have the pressure wave that'll be following after it, and that's what's really going to tear everything to heck in a handbasket. And you want to be on the ground. Now, then an atomic bomb, then the bad news really comes on. And whereas if you have a bolide, or in a case, this is a super bolide, then if you're still dealing with the very same beginning issues, which is the flash and the pressure wave. All right. And so if you watch Duck and Cover, it's going to give you very good advice on what to do, so that if there is an air burst of a super bolide, that the minute you see the flash, you're going to do something. Now, why is it important for you to do that? 2013 Chelyabinsk. There were like 1,500 people, I believe, that were injured. A lot of them, it was broken glass flying into their faces. And no doubt there were a lot of folks that lost vision in one eye. God, I hope not, I hope there were ones that weren't totally blinded. And why is it this happened? Because when the flash from Chelyabinsk occurred, I mean, it was 30 times brighter than the sun. So, of course, everybody goes to the window to see what happens, just in time for the pressure wave to hit and blow the window in their face. And so if the people in Chelyabinsk had watched Bert the Turtle, and they would do what our government was telling us to do in 1951, not one of them would have been hurt.
That's amazing. And by the way, there is a Bert the Turtle song.
Really?
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, there is a Bert the Turtle song in there. Yeah,
I never heard of it. I should have found that to cue that up. I mean, that's pretty funny.
Yeah,
Bert the Turtle.
Bert the Turtle.
Wow.
And so you want to, that's the one thing tonight, folks. After this, go to my site, just scroll to the bottom of Science 37 or Science 38, and I've got Bert the Turtle right there, and you can go straight to it and watch it. It'll be good. You'll see what's happening, and then we're going to watch what happens with the Perseids. And are we going to have the same thing again? Are we going to start, like this time it was Nokulin clouds and sprites? Completely bizarre. And we're still, keep in mind, remember, Tunguska was on June 30th. And it was in the middle, the densest part of when the Beta Taurid stream passes Earth. And so we're not up to the Tunguska We're 10 days away from the Tunguska time frame. And I'm going to tell you something. That is really something people should be thinking about seriously, because down in you have from Cape Whale Ghost, the coast, all right, and the Southern Cape Astronomy Club, and they down in South Africa, and they have reported a bolide. Now, the difference between a bolide and a super bolide. A bolide, a fireball is that big smoker that goes across the sky. The bolide is when you're going to have a flash. It detonates. It's big enough to detonate. A super bolide is going to have flash and sound and pressure wave. All right. The Chelyabinsk was that. Now, what happened down in South Africa, and this was just on January, this was for 2019, January 16th, and that was when they spotted this down there. And we don't see these things reported up here. This bolide wasn't really reported. So they're happening, and that's the point I want to make, is it's happening. But also, NPR just posted an article on June 20th. Americans want NASA to focus more on asteroid impacts and less on getting to Mars.
That's one thing I was going to mention to you, that the public, according to polls, and I'm not quite sure where, I didn't follow up exactly where these polls were coming from, but I'm sure they explained. It showed that the American people are more concerned about asteroids than going to Mars or the moon. I thought that was rather interesting.
Yeah, well, I think it's evolutionary. I think it's really excellent. People are becoming more aware, because there's, for a long time, people just didn't think about it. It was something that happened to dinosaurs 65 million years ago. And frankly, impact events, it was when we saw the impacts, I think it was, what was that, back in the 80s on Jupiter, the Levy.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any one of those impacts, by the way, would have been an extinction level event on Earth. And I remember watching the videos, and people are seeing this, the astronomers, and they're going, ooh, ah, oh, cool. And I'm sitting there going, what is your major malfunction? Any one of these freaking rocks would take us out. Humankind is going to wait 10,000 years for extraterrestrial, to dig us up, like in the movie Artificial Intelligence.
Yes.
So, but that was, that's when it became a concern. But now it's much more of a concern. Think what's going to happen when all of a sudden one of these things air bursts over a major city like New York, Chicago, Paris.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's only a matter of time.
Oh, yeah. And it's a real concern. So I am, I'm watching this. I'm concerned. And, but frankly, the only thing you can really do is watch Bert the Turtle. And remember, 70% of the surface of the planet is covered with water.
I try to find the Bert the Turtle song, by the way, Marshall, but if I play it, it's going to get us flagged here on YouTube, unfortunately.
Oh.
I know, I wanted to play it so bad.
You don't want to do that. YouTube has turned into the wild, wild west, and the sheriff's a mean drunk.
Yes, I don't want to disturb the Gestapo now.
Yeah. So I am, for me, I would love nothing more than to just see him come down and say,
Oy vey.
No, you're not, because they, what they did was, and they betrayed their whole business model that got, they said, we're a town square, we're an open platform, good, bad, or otherwise. Everybody come and talk. Everybody came to talk. And now they're acting like publishers.
That's true.
We're going to publish you, but we're not going to publish you. Or we're going to let you spend a year of your life building a channel, and then we're politically, because we don't agree with you, we're going to trash your year of hard work.
I know it's really ridiculous what has come down to this new standard, this new protocol, the whole follow our narrative, or else you'll be gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
Boy,
that's really cute there.
Yeah. I mean, I my uncles were in World War II. I don't think they fought for Facebook to do that.
No, of course not. Yeah. That's a whole nother issue there as well. The whole Facebook issue and Mark Zuckerberg, who definitely sold us down the river.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think to me, Facebook's a CIA operation. So.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So, Marshall, I also wanted to ask you about other things as we move along here tonight. There definitely is a plethora of topics here we can get into tonight. And of course, I did want to mention President Trump to you as well. And other officials out there were briefed, apparently, about UFOs. And that was a very hot topic. As of late, we've seen all the news articles and the press that this story has been receiving. I'm quite curious what your take of all this media frenzy in terms of ufology now.
Well, what they're wanting to do is they want to get Trump to say, yeah, I think there's something to him. And then they're going to say, we're going to 25 him because he's mentally incompetent. He believes in UFOs. So, the thing with Trump, and when he answers things, and I'm a patriot, but I will be the first to say, you don't take Trump at face value. And because he's walking through minefields, political minefields. And I just put an article up on the site about what's happening with Iran, but it's more for me.
That's another issue. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, that's another issue.
Yeah, we'll go there. Go ahead.
The thing about it for me, from a Planet X standpoint, is Trump's a breath of fresh air in terms of Planet X. Remember, as I said, every president after Reagan and before Trump was a globalist. Globalists want to destroy the strength of the two nations, Russia and the United States, and the whole world is universally poor and in debt to them, and they live like, ancient kings and queens, and we all grovel in the mud. That's what the globalists want. So that is in terms of Planet X. That's not a good thing when we have the flyby and it's coming through. Now I've been on your show before, and I remember when I was telling you is that when you hear on CNN, and
you're right, Marshall, you've been at this for years, and you've been at this with the Sign series, and a lot of these articles, you write them as ongoing series, and it's coming to fruition now.
Yeah. The things I'm writing about, you read my book, Surviving the Planet X Tribulation. I have, I explain the celestial mechanics of what's going to unfold in very simple layman's terms. And I have a series of slides that build on it. Everything that I said then is playing out exactly now. And so if you read Surviving the Planet X Tribulation, you'll understand in very good detail exactly what's happening, what's coming, what we can do to deal with it. And the thing is that in order for us to deal with what's coming, is that it's going to require spiritual strength and moral fiber. That's what's really going to make it. If my philosophy is survival for the sake of survival, it's a no-win scenario. Because this is when this thing unfolds, it's not gonna, when it really goes sideways and we're in the middle of the tribulation, we're talking about a decade, 10 years is what I'm projecting.
Yes, and Marshall, this is one of the many reasons why you created your book, Radio Free Earth.
Exactly, because we're not going to be able to rebuild. You know, I don't want to talk about the end of this civilization.
Oh, I know. It's painful to talk
I
about that, but,
Yeah, and it's also
it's
pointless.
pointless. Yeah.
It's pointless. I'm talking about the beginning of the next civilization, or more specifically, how do we create a clean slate for the beginning of an age of enlightenment? Because we come out of this thing, and we come out of it as a free species where we are not owned like cattle by the central banksters and the deep state and the globalists and all of these people who are absolutely convinced that we need to suffer for their ideas, but of course they don't suffer. All right. I could see for years it was a sadness in me to see it, that they were winning, they were going to prevail. We were just going to be like mullets, like lemmings running off a cliff. Now all of a sudden there's this global freedom movement, and where in the hell is it written that we have to die like lemmings anyway? Where? Okay? And so we are seeing this wonderful upswelling of strength and spirituality and a return to freedom. And you want to mock it as nationalist, you want to mock it as populist, you want to mock it however you want to mock it, but this is what we need. When I look at these people, they're stout-hearted. They're good, God-fearing, stout-hearted people. And that's what's necessary. Now, here's something else I want to make a point of. When, everyone is poo-pooing and they're going, oh, the Patriots, those smelly Walmart people. And look at where patriots and globalists, and when I say globalists, I'm including Democrats and Republicans.
Sure.
There's plenty of schmucks on both sides of the fence that are into this.
Absolutely.
And the thing is that they want everybody to die. I mean, and they're going to take over. And if they're trying to rule a world with 7 billion people, that's a little rough. If it's reduced down to 250 million, and we'll hit a low point. And I think that, we're going through that 10-year phase. We will hit a point where we hit down to as few as 250 million humans alive on the planet. But by the end of the tribulation, we'll probably be up closer to 500,000.
Yes, and to set this up properly even further, I did want to ask you this, since it does go hand in hand with what we're talking about here. In terms of legitimate scientific research, we do know plenty of it has been suppressed by who. We don't exactly know. There's only a few ideas of who it could actually be that does suppress a lot of these scientific analysis that do break through. And a good example of this would be at the time, the church, the king, whoever. We had Galileo and Copernicus. These two were basically scrutinized for their work long ago.
Yeah, but look what we have today. The Lucifer telescope, it's also called the Vatican telescope.
Yeah.
It's in southeast Arizona. Actually, if you live in Arizona and you want to know where the safest place to survive is in Arizona, you want to go live somewhere around that telescope. And it was very purposefully placed there by the Vatican. They went to the University of Arizona, shoehorned their way into a publicly funded observatory. All right. They forced themselves into it, and they put the Lucifer telescope in there. They are situated, the Vatican Lucifer telescope is situated in one of the most pristine viewing areas left on the planet. And most important part, it is located in a place that will have the longest possible observation window of the flyby.
Amazing.
The longest possible window. And so, they're suppressing it. I mean, how many times have we heard, the Art Bell, Father Malachi interview?
No, classic stuff there.
Classic stuff. And so they're suppressing it. This is, people say, who's suppressing it? I'm saying the same people who print the money. Because they're the ones that stand to gain from that. They're the ones that have a fiat system. And so if all of a sudden everybody knows that, the planet is going to get whacked in 5 or 10 years, everybody's going to be planning for that, which is going to completely destroy everything that they're doing in their plans. Because what are they doing? They're bleeding us to death for money to build their deep underground bunkers, which they've got scattered all over the world. So
it's funny you say that.
We don't get to go to the bunkers, but we're paying for them.
It's funny you say that, Marshall, in terms of bunkers. I just had on a guest from Canada who has one of the biggest bunkers in North America. His name, I believe, is Bruce Beach.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's pretty incredible, really. He talked a lot about his underground facility that he has, and he was a pretty interesting character. Some people, of course, did not like him, but that's with everybody. But you are someone who is very much against the whole underground bunker facility, correct?
Actually,
or are you with it now?
I am in the process of writing my next book.
You had a change of heart.
Oh, no. I've been working on this for 5 years. I mean, it's the underground bunkers. Yeah, they got them. They ripped us off. I mean, come on, give it hey, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Right.
All right. So that's it. That's the way it is. It's a bad hand. Play the hand. Okay. You got these governments, they're building the bunkers. But, in the lead up to 2012, I did a lot of consulting with very wealthy people who were building bunkers. And I'm talking about El Cheapo, poor boy, was $500,000. Typically, they were $1 million to $1.5 million. And what did they come to me for? They didn't need advice on a lot of things. I got news for you. People with money, I love talking to them. They're polite. They're respectful. They appreciate my work, like Dana.
Not Dana.
And they do their homework.
That Dana came in here.
They do their homework. Oh, my God.
That Dana came in here on fire.
Yeah. It's totally amazing. And all they ever wanted to know from me, I always knew exactly when they would call me. And it was funny. It was like from radio shows that they found me. And, you get into a birds of a feather flock together kind of a thing. And so I was referred from one to the next. I never solicited the business. But what they would do is they would find wherever they wanted. They would put earnest money down on the property. Then before they went to close escrow, they would come to me for a due diligence on the region. And so they would give me a GPS coordinate, a road junction, a town, a zip code, something like that. I knew it was generally within about 20, 25 miles of where they were going to plant the flag. And I would look at everything. I have a scale of 0 to 10. 0 is kiss your ass goodbye. You're going to die badly. 10, that's as good as it gets. There are no 10s in America. You want a 10, go to the foothills west of Calgary in Canada. That's a 10. Now, anything over a 7 on my scale is survivable. So Dana, you're there in Reno. Hun, I want to give you a piece of advice because I lived in Reno. Get north. Get up the hill. Don't be down in the bowl.
I'm doomed.
Reno will flood.
Yes, I'm below.
It'll turn. It used to be a lake. It's going to go back. All you have to have is Tahoe cracks just a little bit, and it's got 7.2 stress on it waiting to pop, which would create a tsunami that would immediately devastate the South Shore. But if it does that and it cracks on the Truckee River, oh man, that's it. Reno is gone. And for those of you who live in Reno, when I'm talking about gone, the water level is going to, GSR is going to be 1/3 covered with water. Downtown will be 2/3 covered with water. North McCarran will be the new River Road, and the Winco store will be half flooded. This I have seen in vision.
Yes, in California,
again and again.
And California will be in the ocean.
Well, a lot of California, but also California is going to have a huge archipelago. And so you're going to see Santa Cruz area, interestingly enough, where I had my vision, all right, and that took me to Brookdale. Well, the Santa Andrea runs through the Santa Cruz Mountains. And so to the west of that is you have all that Santa Cruz area down into Monterey, going on south. Well, all of that winds up becoming part of an archipelago, because you have two plates that are meeting. And when right there at the Santa Cruz Mountains where I'm having the vision is where to the east, that's the plate that's subducting and going to go down. How long can you tread water? And the plate that they're sitting on in Santa Cruz is the one that's going to lift. And so there's going to be an archipelago. They'll probably call it the Santa Cruz Archipelago or the Monterey or something like that. That'll be there. Oceans are going to die because all the nuclear reactors are going to go Fukushima, the radiation. So we're going to have dead oceans, substantially dead oceans. A lot of the things that people are seeing, they're going to see. And it's going to be a tough time. So for those of you, if you're living up there in the Reno area, this is a shout out for you folks in Reno. Move to Stead.
Run.
Move to Stead. They'll know. So, next question.
Incredible. And of course, I did want to get your take on the latest ongoing issues with Iran.
I just published an article on that. And the article, now I'm looking at this and I follow what's happening. I mean, people get focused on Trump, and the article is Q Alliance punching the bully in the nose. Trump is the face guy. He's the shill. Everything is being run by the military. All right? That's the reason. It has military precision. All of this goes back to Benghazi. Benghazi was the spark that lit the fuse for what we now call the Patriots, or the White Hats, if you will. And because Benghazi was it was another one of these gun running deals that Clinton was doing, and it went sideways because they were cheating someone. The military knew exactly who did it right after it happened. They knew exactly who did it. And it wasn't who Hillary said it was. It was not this YouTube video provoke. She basically, she made a deal to sell some weapons and missiles, and she squirreled the deal, and they got mad. And that was when they decided to blow the thing up. There were assets that could have rescued those people. And it was Clinton who put the kibosh on that, because dead men tell no tales.
That's true.
And that was the final straw. I mean, the military, if you look to see what happened during the Obama years, our military was eviscerated. At the end of Obama, we had junk, a lot of junk. I mean, we had stuff that's old, should have been replaced long ago. now the military's been rebuilt, and that's a good thing, and particularly the veterans with the VA benefits. I'm very, very happy to see that.
It's a very interesting time. Apparently, there was some sort of strike that was called off at the last moment. I'm not exactly sure what the real reason for that was. Trump did say lives. He on TV. He said he was concerned with the lives that would be lost. But let's be realistic here. I don't think he really cares about which lives would be lost. I mean, I don't even care which lives would be lost, to be honest with you, either. But I truly think that there's more to this story than what's being told.
Well, that's what I explain in my article. And I give the exact reason in the article. I don't, if you want me to do a spoiler, I'll say, otherwise.
Yeah, go ahead.
Folks can go and read it. What's really happening is in the article, I explain that when you start following Q, all right, and keep in mind, I was following all of this about 6 months before Q ever appeared. When I first got involved with it, and I was getting my briefings from people who are active military and law enforcement.
Yeah, you've gone deep with the whole QAnon movement.
I went deep into it because this is, and I mean, you want to really know a lot of the good stuff. You talk to people who strap it on every day and put their lives on the line so you can sleep at night. They're following this like a hawk. And I'm getting tremendous information from these folks. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for them. Now, when I first learned about it, it was white hats versus black hats. All right. It was still pretty early on, alliance versus globalists. But, Benghazi was the final. That was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, because it was Hillary Clinton's debacle, but it was our people. And she threw our people under the bus, and they died so that she could cover up her debacle.
Yeah, that was a pretty big botch.
Yeah.
A big botch
and,
there.
So that is, and what happened was this now, what we see politically, this came from the military. It was the military that went to Trump and convinced him to run for office. What, he needs this abuse? This guy is, talk about a perfect life. He had everything. Omega Babe, big business, money, gold, airplanes. What does he need this abuse?
Yeah, that's one thing I always wondered. Why on earth would he want to be the president?
Yeah, well, he wanted to be the president because, see, the thing about it is the Patriots, when you look at the two opposing sides, globalists versus patriots, globalists is a big lump. I mean, these are the ones that includes the banksters. They're the ones that really drive it, are the banksters, the central banks. Trump, you see, Andrew Jackson, all right, Mr. 20, okay? And he's got Andrew on the wall. Andrew was the last president that was able to defeat the central bank, but they're persistent like cockroaches. They keep coming back. And they were able to get Woodrow Wilson to do it. That's the worst thing that ever happened. We gave up a solid currency for a fiat currency. All right. And that's what's really happening right now is you have the globalists, you have the bankers, they have these tendrils that are into every government and everywhere. They're everywhere. All right. And so, like in my first article, I explained when you look at Q and Trump and the patriots versus the globalists, it's like the meanest, most aggressive, most intelligent Chihuahua trying to mount a somewhat befuddled Great Dane. Okay, and that's the case. But these guys are something else. They're doing the moves, and this literally is a battle between good and evil. The people who are opposed to Trump and the patriots, they don't understand them because they're so busy hating them and looking through the filter of disinformation. They don't understand. It's like, why aren't they like us? Why aren't they like us? You look at Trump, And they're the forgotten people. What does it mean? Like somebody forgot their jobs, somebody forgot their children on endless wars, somebody forgot their savings, somebody forgot their homes, because a few people were busy, becoming wealthier than God and controlling everything and feeling that, they were smart and had a better idea. And so one side understands the other perfectly. And the other side is so busy, angry, and raging, it's not listening. And neither side, I look at the Patriots, and what you just see is steely determination. Go ahead, yell, scream, yell, scream. They know that with the Patriots, Yellow Jackets, Brexit, it's a battle of good versus evil. And that's it. And for those folks, they're not going to back down. You can call them all the names you want. They're not going to back down. It's like we were talking earlier about people who are being divorced in families.
There's a lot of people, yeah.
They're being divorced because their spouses don't understand them, because their spouses don't want to understand them. And all their spouses are doing is yelling, screaming, and threatening and making baseless accusations and humiliating and all of this terrible stuff. And do they listen? Do they want to understand? No.
But would you understand if the woman left a flat earther?
Well, you got to pick your fights. And it's something where if it's a flat earther, fine.
Amazing.
If it's a flat earther, I would just sit there and I'd say, fine, let's look at evidence. Let's look at the data. Let's look at this together and evaluate this. All right. That's when they get mad at you, is when you start asking questions they can't respond to. So I'll talk to them until the world looks level. But politically, no, people, we're so polarized. We're like Europe. They don't have a media that can balance itself or even hope to balance itself between opposing sides. In Europe, it's your media is going to be for one political faction or another. So it's all degenerated into these propaganda mills.
Yes, and another thing about Donald Trump, just the other day, I came across an article about this woman named E. Jean Carroll. It's yet again another rape allegation. And this time it's from way back in the 1980s, where this woman, an author, she claims Trump raped her. Unbelievable.
Didn't we have this? We went through this with the Kavanaugh thing.
I believe so.
And the Kavanaugh thing was a terrible national debacle. And this is getting to a point where it's just baseless accusation after another. But there's a reason for it. And the reason is not obvious. In Q Alliance, punching the bully in the nose, what I explain is that when you follow the Q movement, you see the underside view. You watch Fox, MSNBC, whatever, you're seeing the faction view. That's the output side. When you see the underside view, you're seeing the input side of things, what's really happening. And so right now, what Trump is doing with the Patriots is they're getting ready to drop the hammer on the deep state. And we're going to see a lot of perp walks. And we're going to see public hangings. What's been happening and what's going to be exposed and what's going to come out, because the globalists are sick people. Horrible. And what they do to women and children it's unbearable to think about, the horror that they do. There was one of the things, this was well known in the Q community. And if you're into the Q community and you learn to follow, there are subtleties, there's things, and you learn it. it took me a long time. I actually spent 4 months studying the Q community intensely
Oh, wow.
before I wrote my first article.
You really got in there.
Oh, yeah, hours every day. Because I'm looking at this the current politics is like, so what? When Planet X gets here, that's it. God's going to dump a bucket of poo-poo on us, and who cares about politics? It's going to be survival at that point. So why do I care about the Q and Trump? Well, one, if the Anunnaki come and we're ready to stand for ourselves, yeah, maybe we got to give them the gold, but we don't have to give them the women. All right? I see that as a possibility. I don't want to see all these young women being literally, and they've already been probably selected, pre-selected, and so when it happens, boom, they'll just snatch them up, and then they're going to be breeding slaves for the Anunnaki, because the Anunnaki found out crutch babies apparently don't become the best slaves. They need to be, they need to be mothered. And so maybe we don't have to give them up. Giving up the gold, yeah, fine. We have a lot of gold on the planet. We can go get a lot more. But it's also a matter of getting a little respect. And with disclosure, now when Trump announced that he was going to disclose everything and he gave Barr the keys to the kingdom, he set a precedent of disclosure, full disclosure on an issue of national security. In other words, before Trump, with the globalists, Obama, and also it would have been just the same with the Bushes, okay, is this thing would be coming in. We're seeing what the frick videos
What
on
the
YouTube.
F? Yeah.
And I got myself there. And I was having an alpha moment.
I know you were being alpha right there.
I went alpha.
That's okay. Don't worry.
That's it.
I like that.
Yeah, there we go. And oh my God, maybe there's a third category. Maybe we're trans alpha. But anyway,
we might be.
Trump there is pushback. There's an insistence on freedom. But instead of us hearing the schmucks, on CNN now saying, don't worry, nothing's going to happen, it'll pass by. The patriots aren't going to put up with that nonsense, okay? There'll be disclosure. Now I see disclosure on Planet X where I never saw the possibility of it before. That's the one reason why I'm excited about Trump.
Oh, yes. And many people definitely are a little bit upset with Trump on a few different things. Of course, some of the most rowdiest and rambunctious followers he has voted for him under the pretense that he would bring full disclosure, like you said, but more so, some of these individuals really thought in their minds that they would get some sort of full disclosure on 9/11. And of course, some people even thought extraterrestrials, but none of those things seem to have taken fruition. And it has led to a lot of people out there, I guess you could say, turning their backs to one Donald J. Trump.
Well, not me. I think it's great. I think it's great. Hey, what? He's got enough grief as it is. Look at the grief that I get with the suppression that, everybody in our genre's dealing with, the manipulation, the humiliation. If he were to say, I believe in UFOs, I believe in Planet X, I believe in these things, oh my God, Nancy Pelosi would
crucify him.
Personally putting him into the crazy jacket.
Yeah, they would crucify him for sure.
No, they would crucify him. Now, do I think he knows about Planet X? Oh, hell yes. Because I worked with a lot of millionaires in the lead up to 2012. And for them, it wasn't about dreams, visions, premonitions, or interviews on Coast or anything else. It's intelligent people who are, as a routine matter of risk management, hedging their position. And they're looking at all of this and they're going, if there's something to it, I don't want to, I don't want to be left hanging out over a fence. If I'm out on a branch, the last thing I want to do is have the tree fall on me. All right. So they took it from a very rational standpoint of a risk threshold. Now, Michael, this is how business, insurance, intelligence agencies, it's always about a threshold. You have a threshold where you need to be concerned. You have a threshold where you need to plan. You have a threshold where you need to take action. And if the threat does not materialize, yippee-ki-yay. You don't look at the time, money, and effort you put into hedging your position as a waste because you're doing this in a number of different ways all the time. And it's essential to the strategy of maintaining your position. It's the little guys who can, that are, living from check to check that are going, I can't afford to have that. Hell no, I need to, if you're going to tell me it's the end of the world, by God, I got to know the exact day, because the first thing I'll do is look to see what the billing cycle on my credit cards is so that I can go out and max them out at the box store before the guacamole hits the fan. Ha ha. And then I leave MasterCard and Visa holding the tab. And so people, no, not wealthy people, they're doing that. So would Trump know about it? Oh, God, yeah, no question about it. Because even before he was president, he had a fantastic intelligence system.
Yeah, he said a lot of interesting things post 9/11 as well. Many interesting things, and I do have audio of him talking about 9/11 way back then, maybe a day or two after the incident. I'm not sure if I played you that audio before.
Which one was that?
He's on some radio show doing an interview, and he talks about, he's talking about the basement of 9/11.
Oh, I remember that interview. Now, he was talking about the first attack on the Trade Towers.
Right.
And he actually had a chance to go down in there with structural engineers.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw what happened. And Trump was, he's looking at what happened on 9/11. This guy builds high rises. And first off, the Twin Towers, that place was built marron. The Twin Towers was super, super heavy built. And on 9/11, I remember this was when they went in, and just after they got into the site, and it was on one of the towers, and I saw one of these massive, huge beams that would be in the center of the building around the elevators. All right, that's your central columns. This was like massive, huge central column. This thing must have been 15 feet across or something. And I saw it was literally cut, like it had been cut with a laser at a 45-degree angle. Okay, that's military. That's military. All right, and they burned it. They have a rope they put around it. Boom, it burns and cuts through it. And this is what, when the military has to abandon a vehicle and they don't want it to be useful to the enemy, they drop one of these grenades on top of the engine, and that's it. That's the end of the vehicle. So he saw something that was curious, but I saw something that was clearly something that was intentionally done to make the building fail.
Right.
Okay, and I saw it with my own eyes. Was I ever able to see that video clip again? No, it was sponged. The sponging was so fast. Look at how quickly they removed the debris.
They removed it really
from the Twin Tower site.
Pretty fast.
The biggest crime scene in the history of humanity. And what do?
All those dump trucks.
They shut out the evidence faster than anybody can imagine. And then all of a sudden, passports fluttered down. I mean, there was so much nonsense with it.
Yeah, those garbage trucks really was a sight to see.
That's the truth.
It was crazy.
So there is, for folks When we look at the politics and you're seeing what's reported in mainstream, you're seeing any of it. And you cannot take it at face value.
Right.
This is a game of chess, 5D chess, as they say with Trump. And what they're doing right now is they're slowly but surely setting up the deep state and the media so they box themselves into a position. What we're going to start seeing in a few months or earlier are going to be arrests, the perp walks.
Yes.
They're going to be big perp walks.
I hope so.
And the Department of Justice is still a little too feckless and globalist right now. They're working to clean it up. So the majority of the prosecutions will be military tribunals. That means this is going to end with a noose.
Yes, and Marshall,
that's what I'm predicting.
And Marshall, I do have an audio clip of that interview. I thought I could play some of that for you.
Sure.
Yeah, let's hear this.
There's a great deal of question about whether or not the damage and the ultimate destruction of the buildings was caused by the airplanes, by architectural defect, or possibly by bombs or aftershocks. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, it was an architectural defect. The World Trade Center was always known as a very, very strong building. Don't forget, that took a big bomb in the basement. Now, the basement is the most vulnerable place because that's your foundation, and it withstood that. And I got to see that area about 3 or 4 days after it took place because one of my structural engineers actually took me for a tour because he did the building. And I said, I can't believe it. The building was standing solid, and half of the columns were blown out. I mean, so this was an unbelievably powerful building. If you know anything about structure, it was one of the first buildings that was built from the outside. The steel, the reason the World Trade Center had such narrow windows is that in between all the windows, you had the steel on the outside. So you had the steel on the outside of the building. That's why when I first looked, and you had big, heavy I-beams. When I first looked at it, I couldn't believe it because there was a hole in the steel. And this is steel that was, you remember the width of the windows in the World Trade Center, folks. I think you know, if you were ever up there, they were quite narrow. And in between was this heavy steel. I said, how could a plane, even a 767 or 747 or whatever it might have been, how could it possibly go through the steel? I happen to think that they had not only a plane, but they had bombs that exploded almost simultaneously, because I just can't imagine anything being able to go through that wall. Most buildings are built with the steel is on the inside around the elevator shaft. This one was built from the outside, which is the strongest structure you can have, and it was almost just like a can of soup.
You know, Donald, we were looking at pictures all morning long of that plane coming into building number 2, and when you see that approach the far side, and then all of a sudden, within a matter of a millisecond, the explosion pops out the other side.
Right. I just think that it was a plane with more than just fuel. I think, obviously, they were very big planes. They were going very rapidly, because I was also watching where the plane seemed to be not only going fast, it seemed to be coming down into the building. So it was getting the speed from going downhill, so to speak. It just seemed to me that to do that kind of destruction is even more than a big plane, because you're talking about taking out steel, the heaviest caliber steel that was used on a building. I mean, these buildings were rock solid, and you know, it's just an amazing thing.
Pretty incredible. That was President Trump talking about 9/11. Very, very interesting. What's your take on that?
I think he really is giving good, straight, useful information.
I think so too.
And, you know, he sees it. He saw it. Trump saw it. You know, hey, you know, you look at what this is, and if you're discerning and you understand, you know, you're saying, hey, Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. All right. So he saw things that really concerned him, but still the same. You know, I saw what I saw, Michael. I saw actual evidence of a controlled event.
It seems like it, yeah.
No, it wasn't seemed to me. I saw it. It was a controlled event. You don't cut a beam like that.
Yes, I was just...
literally, it looked like an X-Acto knife standing up.
Allegedly.
That's what it looked like.
Allegedly.
And allegedly,
just for YouTube's sake, allegedly it happened.
Yeah, you're right.
Allegedly, yes.
And but it happened, and look at our world, how it's changed
Dramatically,
so much.
dramatically, even to a point where it's like, I don't even know what's going on. Is this really America sometimes?
Well, I'm just hoping it comes back. I mean, to what I remember, but the end of the 90s, it was from 9/11 on, it was like we went from one timeline of peace and prosperity to a timeline of global misery, endless wars. I mean, it was such a flip-flop, and all of this stuff, Trump sees it. He wants to end these wars. What he did with Iran, they're going. It's all this puffery and buffoonery. You have Biden who's going. He's going to bumble into something or stumble into something. Oh, thanks. That's really great. Give the troops a nice support, why don't you? But what's really happening is this is a back faction battle. All right, Pompeo and Trump have probably been working in the background with a peace faction in Iran, but they're opposed. The globalists are still there. Remember, Kerry, against the law, went to Iran in 2018. What the hell is he doing there? He's from the Obama administration. Well, they made a deal, and Kerry was there, not for world peace, mom, apple pie, and love. Kerry was there because he was going to his faction, his deep state faction there in Iran, and saying, we're going to get rid of this guy, Trump. Don't worry about it. Stick to the plan. And that's why Kerry was there. And what's happening now is Trump is sitting here working with the peace faction. So why does the drone get shot down? Because they're trying to undermine. It's one faction in Iran trying to undermine the other. And so with what Trump did, saying, okay, in the last 10 minutes, I'm not going to kill 150 people, was brilliant. Because they got to be sitting there and go, look, Trump is. If you don't like him, everybody who doesn't like Trump says the same thing. He's a son of a bitch. Well, everybody who likes him says, we don't care. He's our son of a bitch, and we love him because he gets the job done.
That's true.
All right? But if you don't like him, he's a son of a bitch, and he's a street fighter. He'll jump down into the gutter with you.
He's pretty alpha in that sense.
Oh, man. Alpha.
Yeah, he's alpha.
Squared. Alpha cubed. Alpha to the 10th power.
I agree.
Okay. Now, so I look at this thing. There's all kinds of stuff going on in the background. And what's happening is, how do the globalists, the bankers, maintain control? Endless wars. They profit from the wars. They loan money to both sides. Henry Ford financed Adolf Hitler. Okay.
Amazing.
And so did the banksters.
That's true.
These big guys throw their money behind these monsters, and then they profit from it. My God, how much money do you think Ford made off all the vehicles they sold to the military and the airplanes and whatever else they were making?
A killing.
So it's all about, an elite of people who they run the world from the shadows. All we get to see are the shills, the front men that are out there. Trump is a front man. If Trump falls, someone else will take his place and be just as effective.
Amazing. Now, Marshall, I do want to thank you tremendously for being a part of the program. I could talk to you for another hour, but I do have another guest lined up for this evening, so I definitely have to put a stop to our glorious discussion here. I've been having such a great time talking to you.
Oh, yeah.
It's always fun. That's a great time. That's a very good time talking to you, Marshall. I definitely want to bring you back on again in the near future. And I also want to leave you, of course, with the final word. Anything you want to plug or say, the floor is yours, Marshall. Go ahead.
We have a chance. And for those of you out there that are listening, don't get into a consumer thing about preparation. That if you can't afford this and you can't afford that and you're putting it on. Survival is less about the having of things and more about the knowing of things. Get good information that's useful. It will empower you. It'll give you more hope for the future. And that's what it's really about, because people who survive for the sake of survival are not going to make it. But those who survive for the noble virtues, to be in service to others, that they do it for love, those will be the stout-hearted, and they will be the ones to survive. So don't get browbeaten with the consumerism. Don't let the negativism get to you. Walk humbly with your God and learn.
Amazing. That was Marshall Masters, YaoUSA.com. That's your own world, USA. And of course, you can find his book, Community Preparedness and Two-Way Radios. You can find that on Amazon or his website, YaoUSA.com. Marshall, again, always an honor and pleasure. So glad to have you here. And we will continue this discussion in the very near future, my friend.
Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Mahalo. Be safe out there.
Will do.
All right. Take care, Marshall.
You too.
Good night. And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. That was one Marshall Masters. Definitely check out his work. That's YaoUSA.com. And of course, when I return, we do have another soul out there coming on to the program, Mimi Johnson. Yes, we are the world and we are the children. Yes, thank you, Brig. Yes. Oh, yeah. That's true. Definitely want to thank all of you in the chat room right now for hanging tight. Definitely stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Part 2 is next. And welcome back. Here we are again, boys and girls. My goodness. Oy vey, indeed. It's now time to bring in our second guest, Mimi Johnson. And I do appreciate all of you out there for sticking around. Let's bring in our second guest. Mimi, are you out there?
Hello.
What's going on?
Hi. How's it going?
Pretty good. I'm glad you are here, and I love the sound of the crickets outside.
Yes, it's perfect for a summer night here in Missouri. So just hanging out in the backyard.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you are here. I'm glad you showed up, and I'm glad you're outside because I do miss that sound.
I know, right? It is kind of, it's homey if you've ever been in the Midwest, or like, I don't know, I guess they're everywhere, but yeah, it's very homey. I like it.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're here. And were you listening to that first interview?
Yes, I was. It's very interesting because I'm new to all of these kind of fringe theory, and not even fringe theories, like I guess conspiracy theories, which I've been doing a lot of catching up with them, and it's really interesting to hear other people talk about it with like such sureness, and they've done a lot of research into it, and they really know what they're talking about. It's interesting, kind of anxiety inducing a little bit.
Yeah, some people are deep. They're deep into this.
Yes. Yeah. Like really, it can kind of be consuming if you let it be. And some of it's kind of like beyond me, like the Anunnaki. That's really, I'd like to learn more, but it's, where do you even learn more about it? So, but it's definitely very interesting. So
it is. It is
a lot.
And it's been a pretty spectacular evening so far. And Mimi, as we get things started here, I do want you to tell us a little bit about yourself, Mimi. I do want a rundown about who you are.
Yes. So it is kind of a perfect guest for you to have had on before me, because a lot of it kind of aligns with what I've gone through this past year. I have a patent in cannabis that I filed. I filed a provisionary patent a year ago, and then we filed the final one just at the beginning of the month. And everything came to me in dreams and in meditations. I have like very specific formulations for it. I wound up realizing that within the cannabis seed is actually omegas and amino acids versus cannabinoids, and that was a major oversight, that our government had put patents on cannabinoids, and they had it for quite a while, since the 1999, I believe. And they were illegal for all of us, of course, but they had them hedged just for when they were legal, that they could make money. And they redistributed that patent out within their buddies, and it's kind of a network that they had put together where cannabis is very covered. When legalization goes through, when federal goes through, it's going to be very hard for people to have a brand, because right now there's no trade or there's no patent infringements. They're not enforcing anything, but cannabinoids belong to the government and to their buddies, and to different groups. I shouldn't say buddies, I guess, anymore, because they have been redistributed, but they're owned for every medical use. You can't get away with labeling it for, anything, because you're going to be infringing. And so for me, I knew I wanted to get into cannabis, but I had to do it where I was protected, and I had to do it in a way that really just that I was protected. And when I realized that there was no patent on those items in the seed, I filed for it. There's different micronutrients within the cannabis seed oil, so we can pull out different nutrients. That way we're still patenting a natural plant, but it's or natural occurring product, but it's not, because we're removing items, making it like a brand new formula, which is kind of the trick that they do for us, for our medicine, is they pull out just enough, or they add in just enough to make it where it's patentable and in a pill. And so it's going to be really interesting. I wanted to make sure that when I realized, when I found the oversight, it was really important to me that like a Monsanto didn't get it. I figured if I don't file this, I was definitely reluctant entrepreneur, where it was, if I don't do it, nobody's going to do it. And if nobody does it, then what's going to happen to our food and our medicine is we're going to be in a lot more trouble than we already are. And I had autoimmune. I'm much better now, but I was on opiates for 8 years. And so for me, like, it's very close to my heart.
And why
the whole medication.
Right. And Mimi, why were you on opiates, by the way?
So I had autoimmune. I had like a bladder and kidney disease. It's ranked like the most painful, and I hate to say that because everyone's not in a good spot who's in pain, but it was a very painful disease. And my first line of treatment that my doctor gave me was hydrocodone, which I didn't know what it was.
Pretty standard. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't know it was Vicodin. I called in one day to get a refill, and they told me I should have Vicodin at home. And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Who's taking Vicodin?" And it was me. You know, I had
like
no
everyone.
idea.
Everyone's taking Vicodin, yeah.
Yeah, right. And so it was definitely a long journey, and getting off of it was really important. That when I got off of it, I did it right, and I didn't get back on them. You know, I don't know. It's such a hard journey, and getting withdrawal, all of that. It's not fun. I didn't want to do it more than one time. So I really did a ton of research in it and tried to figure out the best way to get off. And cannabis is it is the best way to get off that I found. That and kratom, the two of those together are without a doubt amazing. So being able to share that with people and talk to, there's no room for people to have, like when you have any kind of issues with this, it's very locked down. Like a doctor can't talk to you without liability, and you can't ask for help on the internet without liability. Like everybody gets sued for helping. And so, it's definitely a hard journey, and I wanted to make sure there was a way to help people get through that as well. And so one of the products that I have is the omegas, and the omega-3 that treats inflammation, and that's really at the root of every single disease that we have, which is crazy because you don't really think about it like that. But everything from addiction to pain to not being able to sleep at night to anxiety, all of it.
And Mimi,
ADHD.
And Mimi, I'm sorry to cut you off again, but
yeah.
When was all of this sort of introduced to you? Were you growing up, you perhaps maybe experimented a time or two during your younger years in high school? Is that how you really first got involved in cannabis? That's okay to be honest.
The honest truth, yes. I was definitely, I ate mushrooms on the school bus in like 8th grade.
A lot of people on the show have, don't worry.
Kid.
You're in good company, Mimi.
Right? I was that kid. And so I've always, I don't know. I drink, but not nearly as much as I would prefer plants. It's better. You're not hungover. And
well, it's healthier, for once, and your liver won't go out.
Yes. And you're getting vitamins too. It's much better that way.
Much healthier.
But yeah, no, I've always smoked. I didn't though. When I was on regular drugs, I wouldn't have touched it, and the only reason I did use it is because we were actually out of town. I had nothing else, after getting off opiates. I remember waking up and having anxiety so bad I would take an Ambien in the morning and still be on the verge of a panic attack all day.
You would take an Ambien in the morning? Oh, did we lose you? Oh, we might have lost our guest here. I don't know what happened there. It says, yeah, she's outside, by the way, boys and girls. So I figured she's probably walking around right now. Let me give her a quick call back here. I'm pretty sure
Did I lose you?
Yes, you must have walked off somewhere.
I did. I'm a wanderer. I pace when I'm on the phone.
I was going to say, I think you might have walked a little too far away from the Wi-Fi.
From the thing, I know, right? But yeah, I would have panic attacks, and they were so bad. Just that 6 to 8 weeks after you get off of opiates, you hear you're going to have kind of a mental moment, and you think not a big deal. I can handle that. And it was way worse than I had anticipated. And all I had was cannabis at that point. And so I started smoking, and I smoked a lot, and
Nothing
it got
wrong
me
with
through
that.
it. Yeah, I was definitely a reluctant, because after you've been on other drugs, it's not the first one of choice, I don't think always, but it definitely helps, and it kind of rebalances your brain back out and makes you feel normal again.
Certainly, and I know you weren't feeling as normal once you were using these other pharmaceuticals that really do make you feel like a zombie.
Oh my gosh. That was the thing is there was one point I was on 15 different drugs, and I was at a CVS, and I was feeling something.
Mimi, how old were you? How old were you when you were taking these pharmaceutical drugs?
I right after I had my son, he's 10 now, was when I got sick.
Oh, okay.
And so I was on him for a pretty good chunk. I've been off of everything for 2.5 years now, everything, but I was on it for a good period of time. And it's, the doctors, they really do give you a lot of drugs,
and
I look like I don't know, there's a category where I could go in and I could get whatever I wanted, I was a very good patient. I never had red flags. I did everything by the rules. It was just, they would give you meds, I would complain about being tired. So then they give you Adderall. And if you had Adderall, then you needed Ambien to sleep. And if you had that, then you needed, it was a domino effect of drugs.
Yeah, it's really terrible the way they overprescribe medication now.
Yes, it was actually, they say the number one leading cause of death actually is, I can't pronounce it, but I think it's isotrective illness, and it's caused by medical treatment. Like, it's literally disease caused by medicine and doctors. And I think that was where I was. I think I had an autoimmune, and then I probably stressed myself out about it, and, mental doesn't help, but then it was made worse through all of those things. I didn't feel better till I got off of everything. And then it's night and day. Like, it's like, I wasn't even sick. Like, had I known that was Vicodin in the beginning, I never would have taken it. And I wish that would have been given a better option,
So you're
before it's too far down the road.
Yeah. So you're basically having these difficulties when you are very young in age, it seems. And I guess, did you have some sort of point when you realized the drugs you were taking were probably not good for your immune system?
Yeah, I was still actually, I wound up developing an allergy to morphine is what happened.
There
like,
we
I was
go.
on so many drugs that was what happened.
I figured, yeah.
Yeah, I was on high doses. And so and when that happened, like, I had a few nights where I had like a rash all over my body, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, that's too much, But yeah, I was always very sensitive to drugs too. And so chemicals, side effects are the effects. At the time I thought, like, those are listed where you think you're not going to get them, but that is the effect. They just put it under side effects, so you mentally think that it won't happen. But I got every side effect, of course, and so it was a bad time period. In hindsight, I look back and it's like cringeworthy. Yeah,
Terrible.
So,
yeah.
But I learned a ton, and I learned how the brain worked. I understood how my body worked. Inflammation, like, that was a big thing with my disease. Nobody could ever treat that, but that was what was wrong with me. But I learned about diet. I learned about all these other things, because after a while, medical's not helping. You have to figure it out. If you're not your own advocate, you've got nothing.
That's true. You seem to learn a lot more once you're out of the whole schooling system, it seems. The most important things you learn far away from that.
Yes. Yeah, right. That's been very interesting to know that like omegas, for example, they have 3 different scientific names, which, what is that for? Why do they have 3 names for the word omega? But I feel like now it's to confuse people, to make it so it seems so much harder when it's really not. Like, they could just call it the one word, and we could all have a good day and read the book and be over it, It's made me realize that people are kind of steered away from certain studies, subjects where you think, and like, chemistry and science are very cookie cutter, where you don't get a lot of creativity, and you don't get people, things either work or they don't. And so I think me kind of being in this industry has been kind of surprising, because I'm very colorful, I guess, I like to throw things at the wall until they stick. And so it's been good. I feel like I've come up with some ideas that other people wouldn't have normally. And obviously, because I have a patent filed.
Do you throw things against the wall, literally or figuratively speaking?
No, but I do have a giant whiteboard, but no. But I always have a ton of ideas. Like, I'm a big idea person. So
yes,
it's fun.
And Mimi, what age were you once you actually put your foot in the water in the cannabis industry?
So I'm 38 now. So I guess it's been, I don't know that I'd even consider myself in cannabis still. I think that cannabis is a very weird industry.
It's still it's in its infancy, as they say.
Yeah, nobody's who they say they are. First of all, I'm going to be really honest, where it's either you have drug dealers who are trying to, like,
be legit,
move a business that, they're trying to move over from the gray area to really doing business, but they don't quite understand corporate or how that works.
Yes.
And then you get corporate who they hate corporate. It's just a very weird dynamic. And I don't really love corporate either, but I like some of the ways they work.
Yeah, it's a weird gray area, especially out here in California. For a while, you just needed the medical marijuana card. It wasn't, it wasn't for recreational purposes like it is today. And I talked to a number of doctors out there, and a lot of them wanted to sell ad space here on the program as well. At the time, I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I should have, but
yeah, maybe.
I was sort of against it at the time, and now I'm thinking, how foolish am I? I should have gone with it.
Right, you're a latecomer to the cannabis game.
I am. I just think, oh my God, that was so stupid. Especially when I was given a couple of months for free there without paying anything, but that's between me and you. I won't mention his name.
Right? My first medical card was in California. One of my girlfriends lived out there, and I went out there, and it was so easy. I called, they did a Skype video, and I got plenty of pot. It was great. So California was amazing for it.
You had a great time out here then.
I know, yeah. I do like California.
Wow.
I'm disappointed it's going to be off the map in a whole Armageddon thing. You know, that's kind of sad.
That's the impending doom and gloom, it seems, that we are facing here.
Right? But yeah, now I know all these people over there, so it's very interesting. But
it is. And I already forgot that you were listening to that first interview.
Oh, I know, right? It all ties back together, I think.
Apparently,
always synchronicity.
Apparently, we're going to be in the ocean, but, I for sure will be there since I live in a small town called El Centro, and that is below sea level.
Well, but then he said some of it's going up, so you could,
I could go up.
Jump,
Maybe.
swim, I don't know.
We'll see. We'll find out once that does happen, but hopefully I'll be far away once that sort of does transpire.
I know. Well, I'm in Missouri, where like the whole the eclipse makes an X over St. Louis, over Little Egypt, Illinois, which apparently, because there's a second eclipse coming 2024, and it literally like right above Missouri. But apparently, like there's a cave in Illinois where like Cleopatra's tomb is buried, and all of these things. And I feel like this is going to be like a weird place for things too, where like I don't know, it's where three rivers meet, and that's where the beast comes out from Revelations.
Amazing. So, Mimi, are you religious?
I'm not religious, and I know people say I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, but I really am. I meditate a lot, and that's where I actually got the idea for my patent.
Don't you just hate when people say that? They're like, I'm spiritual, and they're drinking out of a Starbucks. Yeah, they're drinking out of a Starbucks coffee cup, and they're like, I'm spiritual.
Yeah, it's not really like, I don't feel like I label it, but I'm realizing people like labels with religion a lot.
They love that.
It gives them comfort, and so it's been interesting. So with the patent that I have, I really wanted to help people. I mean, that's still my goal. And Jesus used cannabis, same with Moses. It's in the Bible, like really in the Bible, word for word. Cannabosum. My company's called Canna because I wanted to play on words and to talk about it. And when I filed, I thought like, okay, I'll go to church and I'll see if they want to make an anointing oil. Like he used it. Like why wouldn't they? I'm helping them. I'll donate it to them.
That's what I read.
They wanted nothing to do. None of them. And I actually wound up challenging where it was like, I mean, I don't have publicity. I don't have like a very big name, but like, hey, if anybody wants it, if we want to talk about it before it's legal, like, let's do it. It was very clear. There's no separation of church and state. And so I don't know. I think it's a very interesting deal right now. I'm not
interesting business. That's for sure.
Yeah. I believe in God, and I believe in, just not a cookie cutter God. I don't think, it's.
Well, I'm glad you don't want to become a pastor.
No. Yeah. Right. I know. Good thing that's not in my.
It's interesting because
my dreams, but
there's lots of pastors out there who definitely take advantage of their own flock per se and profit off of their flock tremendously. You have these millionaires, multi-billionaires, multiple houses, and it's because God wanted them to be that rich.
Yeah, no, I'm like
God's
against
plan.
The guru. Yeah, I'm not big about gatekeepers. I feel like
I didn't know
you
that
don't need to go through any of that.
I didn't know that God wanted you to fly in a private jet.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah.
Incredible.
Right? Well, usury. So the whole like banking thing, that's the biggest thing I'm struggling with is finances for my startup because it's valued really high. And it's hard to find people that I need money to get started, but it's hard to find people that have that kind of money that are like good, solid people, that are feel like you could
that are not snakes in the grass like many of these companies are. And it goes back to Monsanto.
Right. And then you hear about people that have had startups and they're like, oh, my partner stole it from me, or they people that they have more money, they've been in it forever, they can do more. And so my big worry was that they're gonna like squash it, and make sure that I couldn't work if I wound up with the wrong partner. But the biggest thing I wanted to do was like a Bitcoin, like cryptocurrency, and do my ownership like divided out, because usury, like we're not even supposed to have loans with interest at all. Like if we really want to get religious, that's something we should be talking about. Like there's a lot of big things that nobody talks about that are very key, know, but that's one. So I'd like to kind of figure out a way around that, a way to get started without having to go into that hole. Because later I'd like to be able to use it to my advantage for offering my company like through equity to people that can't afford it or couldn't normally go to the stock market, or they're not on stock market, like retribution wise.
I'm looking at your website right now, the CN3.com.
Yes. So the formula I made is CN3 because it does compete with CBD. It actually works on the same receptors in the brain, and omegas convert into cannabinoids within the body. And so it's kind of like a beautiful workaround around CBD where it's 100% legal. Nobody has to give up their firearm for it. That's another thing with cannabis people don't really talk about is to get a medical card, you have to give up your gun. You have to forfeit your Second Amendment to get a medical card.
Ain't that amazing?
Crazy.
Yeah, that's...
I mean, it's crazy.
Wow.
Like every single mass shooting, they've been on an SSRI or...
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
You can have guns and do that. So that's one of the things, like I feel really strongly in people keeping their firearms. I believe in the black market, which I call alternative distribution channels. So that's PC. But I want people to learn to grow and take care of their own gardens, and they don't ever have to buy legal weed. They can always, once you learn how to grow it and how to use it, you could use it like 12 different ways before it's gone.
That's true. There's so many different ways to use it for food and for clothing and for all sorts of uses. But, one of the things that did concern me, especially about marijuana being legal here in California and in many other states, just the simple fact that other big companies do want to get their cut of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when these other companies want to come in and start muddying the waters and hurting the pure product. That's kind of always been my concern with the whole medical legalization.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's 28,000 patents on GMO cannabis that haven't been released yet. They're all for different modifications that they can't put out because they can't enforce it if somebody were to and maybe that's why they haven't put them out on the market yet. But things are going to change in a big way with federal legalization, and I don't think in a good way. It's interesting to look back at 2016. That's actually really how I got my start. Is I wanted to be in cannabis, and I figured, I'll just play with stock. I can kind of figure that out pretty well. I had good ideas of what I thought was going to happen, and the election was a big deal. Like it killed a lot of deals. Like the Bayer Monsanto merger was postponed for 2 years, but then there was all kinds of things that fell out underneath that people don't really know, But like the NFL had a CBD brand launching that they never launched.
I recall that.
I wonder why they didn't do that.
Yeah, I recall that. The NFL is shady though, and so are the owners, especially with all the fundraisers they have. For a good example would be the whole breast cancer foundation. A lot of the proceeds didn't even go where they were supposed to go.
Yeah. I feel like that's pretty par for the course, though.
That's kind of a scumbag thing to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it is. It's definitely. I mean, the person who the guy that created methadone actually created the cure for the opioid epidemic, and
wow, I didn't even know that.
That was very interesting to me. Yeah, I was like, who is this jerk? Like, who does that and doesn't put it on the market just because it's not legal yet? But he's also very close with our government.
Big surprise there.
Yeah, he's real close with the government.
Buddies,
like one of those words. Yeah, and he didn't put it out too because he's waiting on deals. Like they already have it worked out with insurance companies, it's just the public doesn't know about it. It's hard to kind of stomach when you really look at it, when you really look at how deep it goes and how official, like it is official. Like these companies have made plays, expensive ones, based on these political ideas that were going to happen and they didn't, and so it kind of put a wrench in everything. But it gives the underdogs like myself some good lead time to get out there and get our products out there. Mine's totally legal. It's GRAS approved already because it's just omegas and amino acids.
Yeah,
and then
no THC.
No THC in mine. So we can add it, but by itself, it's no cannabinoids whatsoever. So it's 100% legal globally too. And it could sub for CBD entirely, but it competes both with fish oil and with CBD, like both markets.
That's what I like about it, by the way. I do like that it does have that in it. CBD oil obviously does not contain that.
No, yeah, and you have to go through a lot of extraction to get CBD oil. And a lot of it now they're mixing it with hemp fiber, like the oil from it, not necessarily the seed oil. So now you're not getting exactly what you maybe think you're getting. Like they've changed all the names for everything. Their CBD is going to come out legally in a pharmaceutical company. So they're trying to pull it off the market in recreational right now. Like wasn't it illegal in California?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, like
I believe
CBDs
so.
are legal, really? Like but they're trying to kind of clear space so that I don't want to call them their buddies, but it is their buddies, so that they can come in and not have a problem. Like any state that didn't have cannabis licensing on the books or laws on it, they went in and lobbied, and now they have exclusivity in those states, which that's our politics for you.
Yeah, and let me ask you about the product of cannabis itself. Just all these, you see things like you see long range and styles and potencies of edibles out there, and of course there are drinks, and of course there are also extracts.
Yeah. Yes, I'm an all extract person. I mean, I feel like a purist would say like, oh, I smoke all like dank flower, but I don't. I like smoke like vape pens, and
So you prefer the
I like
oil.
edibles. Yeah, and I like pot that doesn't taste like pot. Like I like fruity flavored stuff,
Sure.
So I'm a bad but I feel like that when I worked for Smirnoff, I launched all the Smirnoff flavors with them, and that's what people do really want. They want, like, that's why Juul does so well. It's because they have like fruity flavors, and it's like it tastes really good. But yeah, cannabis has gotten very complicated.
It's gotten very complex.
Yeah. Yes, and right now everybody's trying to make a niche, and they're kind of scrambling. But I think it'll be really interesting. I think it's going to fall out just like liquor does, where you have like a ultra premium, a premium, regular, and then you have different styles. You have a beer, you have a whiskey, you have a, just like you have a concentrate or a flower.
I've seen that there are the rubbing creams and such, and a few other products I've never used personally before. I don't know how well those work. Like the tropicals, as they call them.
Yeah, I've done them before. So when I first tried to get off of, I tried actually 2 times. I didn't try the first time to get off opiates, but I did. I was in Colorado, and I'm like, hey, I'll get a bunch of CBD, and I'll see how that works. And that was when I got was like topical patches and things like that. It didn't work at all.
Didn't work.
But CBD doesn't work for opiate, and that was something I didn't know at the time.
Right.
And, you need THC for that.
And what about oil, like like taking a dab?
Yeah. So yeah, that's great.
That's a pretty strong.
Yeah. I mean, it isn't. It's not, because you build a tolerance, and then I don't know, maybe I wish I didn't maybe have as much of a tolerance, but yeah, I like it. The dabs are fun.
But
I don't have the whole rig, like the whole setup, because I would break it. But
it feels a little weird when you are firing up the nail there with a blowtorch. It makes you feel like you're gonna smoke some crack.
I mean, seriously, yeah. I brought it home. My husband was like, "What is this?
Yeah, you're smoking crack."
Yeah.
He's like looking for. He's looking for us.
Like warm his car.
He's looking for spoons in your room.
I mean, seriously, it's so funny though. Like there was that Will Ferrell movie when they're in college, and she like has her dab torch all the time, and then I went and got one.
That's so funny.
There it is. Yep. Yeah. No, they made it really. I mean, it's complicated, but I think it's good. There'll be a lot more room for things to kind of shake out, and everyone to have a place out there. But you notice no celebrities are out there yet, and it's because they're waiting for federal legalization, because none of them are on their own. They're partnered with somebody who's already, who's already got their foot in the door in a big way.
So you prefer the pen. Personally, I don't think I could use that. That thing really messes up the throat, in my opinion.
Really? So I think it depends on which ones you get.
Well,
I think different ones are.
There's ones that have this other chemical in it. I'm forgetting the name of the chemical.
Neem, I think. I don't know. A lot of it is we don't know what's in a lot of them. I mean, I'm in Missouri, so I buy my pot at McDonald's parking lot from a guy who gets it off the dark net. And sometimes the brands are ones that I probably shouldn't be smoking, because you really don't know what's in it, You don't
know what. Yeah, that's why I would have to tell everyone not to buy the whole cartridges out there unless they're made from. Unless you know, and unless they're made from something very potent, like actual wax or the sauce, as they call it.
Yeah, like a live resin. So
live
like a
resin.
dab pen.
Yeah.
Those
you need something
awesome,
like that.
Put it in the back.
Yeah, nothing artificial, nothing of that nature. Anytime
But you know what? Everyone argues about what's artificial too. Like people say like propylene glycol is is natural. You know, like everybody has their own, like, oh, that's natural, and it's really not.
That's the stuff that's the stuff that does bother me.
Yeah,
it irritates the throat.
Yeah, and they put it in to make like a bigger cloud or something. So yeah, I know they need to get in and kind of, I guess restrict it all.
You need to be careful. You definitely need to be careful with the whole vape. Just recently, there was a story that came out that said teen has mouth wired shut after vape explodes, fracturing his skull and knocking out his teeth.
What? That's crazy.
Oh yes, but
that seems like not a normal.
I think
thing, though.
Well, it says here in the story, this was caused by an exploding e-cigarette.
What?
So it was probably one of those, generic ghetto e-cigarettes.
Yeah, the cheapy ones. Yeah.
Very cheap. Obviously, the battery exploded. 2 hours previously, a vape exploded in his mouth as he was using it. It says here.
That's insane. Yeah, I mean.
Don't use your vape anymore.
Really bad.
Be careful.
Yeah, right? It's scary. I mean, I could go back to flour, but.
It's probably a little safer.
Right? The vapes are so easy, though. Those and edibles are like my thing.
It's because they're just so simple.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I know. Edibles are the best.
To be honest with you, I prefer the drink now over the edibles.
Really?
It hits you a lot faster.
Yeah, I bet it does, because you probably don't have to do the first, or no. So if you could do a sublingual, that's the best, because that would be like immediate, because you don't have to go through the digestion. And I think that the drinks maybe work differently than food.
It gets in there a lot better, in my opinion, than the edibles. You definitely seem to feel it a lot better, and it puts you in a pretty good mood.
Right? Yeah, I know, they're the best. I do. I love cannabis. It is. That's the thing. It makes life so much better. When you endocannabinoid system is something people don't really talk about, but it's really important. It's like your central nervous system, like that.
Well, yeah, the fact that we kind of have these things naturally. Cannabinoids. We have the cannabinoid receptors that have basically evolved in the human brain.
We've needed it since day one. I mean, I've heard things that like they seeded our planet with this, or these are from ETs, or, the cannabis is from, it's been here forever. Like human history has always used it. We actually share 40% of our DNA with cannabis, like our genetic code with cannabis, which I feel like is very interesting, because that's one of the companies that were behind legalization, like Normal, that company that goes out and got signatures. They paid for every signature. They paid $3 in Missouri per signature. And you can't get an answer from them who funded them. And I'm pretty sure it was Monsanto. I can't prove it because nobody will answer. But it's those kind of things where, of course, Monsanto wants to be in charge of cannabis, because they're in charge of our genetics already. Like they're not going to give that foothold up very easily. So
and, another thing I did want to ask you, because you do have children, early on in the early 2000s, there was this whole big sort of commotion in the mainstream world about parents who use cannabis. And yes. You know what I'm talking about. For a while there, when this was going to come out, going to roll out full circle for the medical scene, you had all these media news sources, the major mainstream media sources out there, losing their minds, basically thinking it was the end times, that the planet would
judging.
Yeah, the planet would end automatically once cannabis was legal.
Yeah, it's crazy because
isn't that funny though?
It is. It's out of control, really. Like, I think part of my thing is I didn't really care what people thought if I smoked cannabis, because I was on pain pills. Like for me that was a very good step down. But if I was not at all, and all of a sudden I was trying to be like openly a smoker, I couldn't imagine that, like, I don't know. There's a stigma still, especially here in Missouri. I don't think it's bad everywhere else, but yeah, for sure. But I couldn't function without it. And when you look at what else I was doing before, like, heck yeah, cannabis is way better, and not that it's one or the other. Cannabis makes you healthy.
Well, you're not like the other soccer moms out there that are hopped up on Xanax.
I know, right?
And they're sunburned, by the way.
Yeah, you really do read stories about like moms that like trade. They really do trade pills. Like it's totally normal.
That's weird.
Yeah, it is. It's very, and like people will drink and do and it's normalized.
I wouldn't know about that world. The whole soccer mom, sort of half burnt blonde with the Xanax addiction. I wouldn't know about that world, but I have been told that a lot of these housewives and the single
Oh my
mothers, and well, even the married ones, they're all hopped up on pills.
Well, I think everybody is. I mean, I think everybody's really unhappy, you know.
That's another thing. People are pissed.
Yeah.
Naturally.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, if you're a man or like male or female, I think people are just really unhappy. And then, I don't know, nobody really talks to each other anymore. Things are just different now.
Well, people are crazy, though. You have to remember, people are insane. So personally, when I see someone out there and they're asking me for something, you know, I automatically assume that this is a troublemaker, that this is a potential menace.
Yeah.
That's kind of bad, though, but I slightly I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I do think that it's true. You do have these potential menaces all around.
Yeah. Yeah. What when people smoke or when?
No, anytime in general. People in general are just troublemakers sometimes.
Yeah, they are. Well, yeah, people like to, you know, I think about this a lot. Like, what human behavior has always been very interesting to me, and that's like spirituality and religion. I've always done a lot of studying with that too, because I mean, it makes people will live and die for their spiritual beliefs or for their. I think it's like judgment, you know, like they get bored, they don't know what else to do, and it's like micromanaging, you know, and people like to stir shit up. They like to stir the pot.
That's true.
You know,
I'm guilty of doing that.
Right? Sometimes it can be entertaining, but
yeah, but I try to make it known that, you know, that I'm just joking around as well. Not too serious.
Yeah, well, you got a good role here. You get to do it for a job.
I'm trying not to get shot.
Yep, that's true.
I mean, that's the world we live in, by the way. Now that people don't throw hands anymore, they're not into fisticuffs. They are more into shooting a gun at you.
Yeah, things are very different. You know, I was that Truman Capote, he wrote that one, the In Cold Blood, and that wasn't that long ago. It was like 1969 or something. And the reason he wrote it is because it was such an abnormal thing. It had never happened in America before, that a family had been like, that there was a target of a crime like that, like a random target. And when you think about now, like that wouldn't even make the news, you know, like that would just be like another thing. Like things have changed a lot really quickly.
People have lost their goddamn minds.
Yeah, and it's like normal to, I bet cannabis really does help. That's the other thing.
I think it helps tremendously.
It does. And alcohol, I think, I mean, I drink sometimes, but like alcohol, there's a thing recently, it was in that Majestic 12 group, and they had said that cannabis, like the beast powers to cannabis, but it loves alcohol. And, you know, spirit is spirits. And so I think that some of that really does have a lot of truth to it. Like I know I've been really guided in what I'm doing, and I feel like it was literally like God, like just like he told Noah to build an ark, he was like, Mimi, you need to do this, like do this now. And like I feel like it was like a push, like I had to, because, you know, it's time, like somebody has to help, somebody has to fix things and step in. But it's a very like just kind of interesting time.
You definitely are faced with an uphill battle here, trying to keep things pure.
Yes. Oh, for sure. I mean, that's the thing with talking about the oil, is that the best way to consume cannabis is a whole plant product, you know, and to have an oil and to smoke that or use that as an edible, you know.
The oil, in my opinion, is like the soul of the plant, and you extract that and you consume almost like the soul of the plant.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that is what it is. And it's like, that's what Christ actually was. It was the anointed one. Like that's what the word Christ meant. You know, it wasn't
amazing.
Yeah, because that's what he did, is he anointed people with cannabis oil, and nobody wants to talk about that. But it wasn't olive oil, you know. And they write it in the Bible. They tell you, and in the Quran, and in the Torah, it's in there. It tells you exactly what it is. And so it's a very clear denial. Apparently, the Catholic Church had it in their baptismal oil up until 1958, and they pulled it out. They had hash in there. So it's a very like, I don't know, it's a shame that they've done what they've done, because I feel like the church clearly has made it, given pharmaceuticals a leg up, you know, like some of the genetic stuff that's happening. I don't know why they don't speak up about.
I mean, maybe what's worse, cannabis or priests molesting children?
I know, right? I don't know. That one's a hard no.
I know, right?
Right? It's insanity. Yeah. But I think it's the way that it's hard to wrap your mind around. When I first filed for the patent, I met with Bayer and Monsanto, because I couldn't believe that I had figured it out and they didn't, you know, and it was this real weird thing, because I'm pretty sure that everything they're doing intentional, you know, like
yeah, the whole stigma
it's
though.
all this big giant.
Yeah, the whole stigma is just really dirty, and I don't even think you are even able to monetize videos on YouTube about cannabis. And however, you can have underage kids in drag and have that fully monetized on YouTube.
Yeah, well, you know, what is it? Biden said that he would have the cure for cancer if he was elected. Like, it's already coming out. It's a cannabis cure. It's coming out of Israel, you know, like, and it was discovered in 1974, you know, like, it's not new, but that's what it is. You know, it's like all of these sneaky, I don't know. It's a big game, I feel like, for all of them.
Yeah, these are dark times.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Dark, but interesting times, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like things are getting better, honestly. I feel like, I don't know. It's interesting to hear like the opinion that like the world's all going to go to shit and it's going to be awful. But I think that it might for a little bit, but then it's going to be really great and much better than before, you know?
I think so too. I'm optimistic about the future.
Yeah. I think it'll be a rocky shift for people for a little bit, but it'll get people's priorities back in order.
Oh yeah. The sun will come out tomorrow. That's true.
Yeah. Like we're all off right now, you know, like our priorities are all just a little bit, we do everything out of convenience and we work a lot to spend the money so we don't have to, you know, for convenience. And some of that's crazy. I think if we slowed down and did things a little bit differently, we'd all feel a lot better, you know?
Yes. And let me ask you something a little bit different here, switching gears very so slightly. I do ask most guests that come on here, I do ask them about their opinion on our president, Donald J. Trump.
Yes.
What's your take?
I like Trump. I was one of the few people that I know that I thought he was going to win from the get-go, and I liked him because he was a business person. And honestly, I'm one of those people, I don't care what your truth is, speak it. If you speak your truth, I'm cool with it. I don't care what you're saying, you know, just be honest. And like, I feel like he was a really straight shooter. I don't know. I think now everything is strategy, and I think he's a genius when it comes to strategy, like nobody better. But I think he's doing a good job. I like him.
And how do you feel about the Democrats out there and who they're trying to boost up, in other words?
You know, I don't even know who they're trying to boost up, really, because it's such a joke. You know, I don't know. I feel bad saying that in a way, but like...
Well, they got Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden are the two most possible... I guess you could say
but
runners.
I feel like they're not even really contenders. I feel like that Kamala Harris, people are talking about her more than anybody else, right?
They're talking about her, but polls still indicate that, you know, like Biden
but the polls
is still
don't
up
mean
there.
Anything.
But that's another thing I do have to take for consideration.
That's all fake too.
These polls never make sense, though. That's another.
Yeah, I think it's like word of mouth. Like, who are you hearing people talk about more? I think that's the indicator more than. I mean, they always lie. They have no idea. And I think they say who's going to win, so it strategizes who goes out and votes, you know, and
right.
And that whole thing, you know. But no, I don't think it's even a... Actually, somebody the other day said on Twitter that John F. Kennedy is still alive and he's going to be Trump's running mate in 2020. And I was like, well, maybe. I mean, you never know.
Were they a flat earther?
That would be a big surprise. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I'm definitely not I haven't actually voted for a president maybe never, you know. I feel like it's kind of there's never a good choice, and we only have two of them, and neither of them are very good ever. And so it's kind of, I feel like, kind of a political trap to get into.
I see.
But
yes, I'm not quite sure who will become the victor, but it does seem like Trump will possibly get the nod again.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's even a chance of anybody else.
We'll find out. I don't know, to be honest with you. I've heard the other candidates or potential candidates, and I'm not really that impressed.
Yeah, I can't imagine that he wouldn't.
I mean,
I don't know.
They're going to fall apart once there's a debate.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, for sure.
I'm waiting until the debate, to be honest with you.
Yeah, to see who makes it through. Yeah,
I got to see who's going to be the alpha and the beta. Very important.
Yep, I know, right?
Yeah. It's kind of a serious, a real issue. You definitely don't want to have a beta male as the president. That's true.
Yeah, you know, I think he's a good president. I think I think the best we've had since I've been. I mean, but
I don't like everything
really
about
that much attention to politics before.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't like everything about him, but he's doing a good job in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, when Obama was getting elected in, I worked for Crown Royal, and I would be in some really bad neighborhoods. And I remember people would be walking around with like buttons on, and they were so excited, you know. And like a few years later, I go to Jamaica, and they tell me they have a mountain there that they named Obama, but now they hate it and they want to rename it because, like, you know, like he didn't do what he was supposed to do, and it's sad, you know. Like people had a lot of hope, and I don't know. I think
I thought Obama was likable.
I mean, he was likable, but this was a long time ago, and we were literally in another country, and they were like, we hate our mountain now. We named it after Obama, but their economy was bad because our economy wasn't doing well. Yeah. And like, you know, there's fallout that we don't really think about as Americans that really affect other people.
I never heard that before.
Yep. I mean, maybe I had a random encounter, but yeah.
Yeah, it's good to get the whole world view and their perspective on things as well. Obviously, I'm American, and most Americans really don't care about the outside world.
You know what, though? That's something for me that when I was trying to do the stock with cannabis, I was trying to get the news from Canada because it was on Memorial Weekend, and I wanted to know what they were trading on the weekend. And I realized you cannot live stream news from another country as an American within American borders. Like, we're geo-blocked from it. And so that alone should be worrisome, I feel like, for we live in North Korea, we just don't know it, you know?
Yes, and I'm glad you said that because internet censorship is coming to a whole new level very soon. Shows like mine might not even exist soon enough, or soon rather.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I wonder. Well, everybody's gonna have to have different channels and different ways to get viewers, different access. You know, I think some of these big guys they're gonna fracture. They have to. And as soon as somebody else comes back, like, so that Parler that's up, I think Amazon runs that, you know, like somebody looked it up for me, and Amazon owns the server behind it. Like, we need like a company that isn't attached to anybody to come out and do it and like do a good job with it and give alternatives.
Yeah, that's the difficult thing though. Finding someone who is pure and genuine. There was another individual I talked to here on the program. He was a guest and on the show, not previously, a couple months back, by the name of Robert David Steele. And he's a big proponent of open source government. And while I think that's a great idea, that's cute and all, I'm all for it. However, man is wolf to man, and man deceives man all the time.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to fully have onto any man or woman, to be honest with you.
But if you had clarity to everything,
you
know?
But I mean, come on. You really would think there would be an open source government? I mean, that's
I think we could force it.
It's so silly, blockchain. Though. There's just, I'm all for it. But the reality is none of the big wigs out there are going to go for it. And they're the ones who are in control. These people thrive on the lies and deception. They don't want to tell you the truth about any of these things that go on. That's why we have to wait 10, 20, 30 years, 40 years almost just to get any truth about anything, really. And that's the sad reality that we live in.
I know, but I wonder if those people, like, if you could figure out, I think about this all the time, like, how can I leverage what I have to give it back that way to help more? Like, I don't know, to help change things in like a lasting way, because there's no way out unless somebody breaks the cycle.
I'm hoping for you.
Yeah, I think somebody like has to just step up and do it. And then once there's profit in it still, like, they can still make their money, you know, like, people just don't have to be in such debt or have to be so unhappy, you know, like, there can be a little bit of compromise, I think, you know, like, they don't have to be all or nothing, but we can meet in the middle where we had a little bit more.
Well, that's the goal, to meet in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something, I'm glad you said that, meet in the middle, because both sides right now of the popular political spectrum, both parties, they are not willing to compromise a damn inch.
And they're crazy. Yeah. It's not good for people. Like, giving, I don't know, two options and both of them are terrible. It's like when I want my kids to go to bed, I'm like, do you want to go to bed in 5 minutes or do you want to go to bed in 8 minutes? Like, they're both awful and they don't want to do them.
Were your kids born behind an iPad?
No, actually, they were not. So, I mean, my son did have one when he was like 3. We got one, but no, now I have this, I'm like weird with it. Like, I want them off of it now. Like, we're like moving to the country. Like I had this past year has been, like I was saying before, that like I was on the fringe before. I didn't really know any of these things. Like my eyes have been opened in the past year because I've been working with these people that, I mean, I've had some crazy people contact me that I didn't even know existed. Like I didn't know the mob was real, but they're real. You know, I thought they were just in movies.
Oh, they're
but
real,
like
right?
yeah, I had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
But like, yeah, I had to learn a lot really quick. Like I didn't watch any movies growing up. Like I was allowed to watch channel 2, 4, and 5, and that was it. No 11 or 30, you know. And so it's kind of like breaking it in. And now I look at the YouTube and like,
Mimi, were you raised on a farm?
No, I was raised.
It's a joke, by the way.
No, I know, right? But I like my parents were, I guess, really strict.
They were real strict on you. Damn.
I know.
God damn.
I know. I don't know where it came from, but yeah, it's my kids. You know, the whole YouTube thing where they were like training kids. My kids, I've been in the room where they watched videos with like the color stuff, and at the time I was like, what is this? This is really weird. But like knowing that's what they're literally putting into our kids' heads is really disturbing.
Definitely.
Try telling another mom that. Forget smoking pot. Try and tell them that, and that's like where they think you're crazy.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck with that. And
yep.
Just to switch gears again, very so slightly here, I did want to ask you about the whole extraterrestrial thing. It seems like you definitely do have an interest in that.
I do. So, but I don't believe. I don't know. I don't want like people to hate me. And
that's okay. Tell us.
Your feed is a little, but no, I don't believe in aliens. I think that UFOs are just planes that aren't shaped like a plane. Like it's an unidentified flying object, but that doesn't mean there's an alien on board. And every single meat lab in the country has an alien saucer-based landing pad. So like we should be talking about that instead of just aliens coming here. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, the reason why I was asking you is because on the news as of late, the past couple of months now, it seems like the media has been going crazy over UFOs.
Yeah, because they're preparing us. I think they're preparing us for like, I mean, my real thing is I think they're preparing us for like a second coming, you know, where they're going to do a fake Jesus. Yeah, that Project Bluebeam, I think that's real.
Yes, that's something the government was trying to get going forward, especially in Cuba, rather. They were trying to get a projected image of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but apparently that's what Skynet's going to do, is do an entire, like, I don't know. People don't understand. Like, they don't know that there's voice to skull. They don't know all these things. So imagine if a UFO like pops above your house and you hear like God saying something to you. Holy moly, most people are going to have no idea.
People would freak out.
Yeah, they wouldn't even consider like, hey, maybe this isn't real, because to them, they like, I told my husband today that there was a UFO in Kansas City last night, and he was like, no way, you know, and like he can't believe that there would be, I don't know what it's called, where it keeps you off the ground, you know, anti-gravity.
Oh,
and I'm
yes.
like, of course they have that stuff. It's not published, it's hidden, you know. I don't know.
Is he a believer?
No, no, not at all.
Not at all.
No.
Okay, that's okay.
Nope. No, it's been because I mean, it's been like a true awakening for me, where it's been all of a sudden I've been having dreams, and then the dreams are like scientific formulas that where did they come from, you know? And I had the holographic dream recently, like just some really weird things. And like, he's great. He listens to it all and he like helps me try and figure it out. But I know he's like, is she crazy? You know, I'm sure in the back of his mind.
Yes.
But
that's funny.
But it's okay. So,
yes. Amazing stuff. And of course, I do want to thank you for being a part of the program. I definitely don't want to take up too much of your time here. And
no, well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good time to cut you loose here, since we kind of are running out of time here. I've been on kind of a long time here, so it is that time to sort of take this home pretty soon here. So I do again want to thank you tremendously for being a part of the program. You have helped, I'm sure, not just myself, but plenty of other people come to a better understanding about cannabis.
Yeah, hopefully.
I think so.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you having me on. It's always fun.
Yes, and I definitely do want to bring you back on in the near future. Anytime we can talk about what's going on with you and this company you're trying to start up here.
Yes, yes, for sure. I mean, that is probably what I should have been talking about this whole time, but
But that's okay.
to promote. But yeah, no, I would love to. That would be great.
No, people love when you actually talk to someone and get to know them better. It helps you actually sell what you want.
Well, yeah, and my whole thing is like I want my product to be so good for people that it puts myself out of business. Like at the end of the day, and like that's a lot of trust I'm asking for people. Like I want people to feel like, hey, you can't trust the FDA. Well, what's in my products. You can't trust these people. Well, you're going to get what I'm telling you you're going to get. Like I want to be that source for people. So I think it's good for people to know me a little bit.
That's a good thing to aim for. You definitely want to have the trust of your customers, and if they know that you'll keep the product pure and without these extra
with no
things.
Lobbyists and
correct.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Oh yes.
Yeah, because all of our the non-GMO project, that's the lobbying company too. Like there's nothing out there that's really, really genuine unless you grow it yourself or you go to a farmer's market.
That's the best way.
That's the sad truth. But
amazing stuff. Mimi, again, it's been fun. Definitely want to do this again with you in the near future. And definitely. Any final words before I cut you loose?
No, but thank you. And yeah, thanks to your audience for listening to me. It was fun for sure.
You don't want to plug your website?
Oh, yeah. So it's Kaneh. It's Kaneh, like cannibalism from the Bible. Kaneh, and then cn3.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, and be safe out there.
Thank you. It was nice to talk to you.
Clockwise. Talk to you soon.
Good night.
Mahalo.
Okay. Bye.
And there she goes, ladies and gentlemen. That was the one and only Mimi Johnson. Great guest. I loved hearing about that. Loved talking about the cannabis products here. All the cannabis products out there. Very tremendous stuff what they're coming up with every day. And yeah, it's been a fun show. I've had a great time here with all of you. And I hope all of you enjoyed the program as well. And of course, before I take it home here tonight, I thought I would leave you with some Florida news. As you know by now, this wouldn't be a show without a quick 305 update. This time, our boy is facing some hefty fines. Florida authorities say a man claiming to be paranoid killed his mother and their dog and then set their home on fire. Oh yes, YouTube videos that made him paranoid that someone was going to harm his mother. He grabbed a gun and shot his mother when she came downstairs. Isn't that nice? He then shot the dog. Wow, the bastard actually shot the dog and then set the house on fire. Oh my goodness, wow. Stay gold, Florida. And of course, I do want to thank my first guest here tonight. That was the one and only Marshall Masters. And I do want to thank all of you out there for hanging out with me this evening. You in the chat room right there. The Master of Rope, World of Dreams, and the rest of you out there in the chat room now. Definitely appreciate all of you so much. I'm glad you guys hung out and enjoyed both interviews. And of course, I do want to thank Mimi Johnson for being on the program as well. I hope all of you enjoyed tonight's show. It's been fun. I do want to thank you, the Fringe FM and Deprogrammed Radio. Next week, boys and girls, I do return. Jim Fetzer is back on the program on Friday evening, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That's for Friday. I promise it's going to be a good show. That's Friday. Jim Fetzer. Oh, it's going to be fun. Of course, I do want to thank all of you out there who have donated. Definitely go to michaeldecon.com if you want to donate. Of course, join the Patreon. The address is patreon.com/Michael Decon. I will be releasing extra content out there for you that will be completely uncensored. Oh, it's going to be a fun time. I will open up about all sorts of things. Oh yeah, I might even get sued. Who knows? stay safe out there, no matter where you are on this island Earth. I'm Michael Decon, and with that said, the world is a mysterious place, and life itself is a mystery. Until next time, good night, everybody.